Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Welcome aboard OverDrive on a sizzling Monday. Jim Taddy, Keegan Matheson from MLB.com, and Mike DeStefano, a.k.a. A.B., Al's brother, to guide you through the early stages of this week. And, of course, we're talking baseball a lot. Coming up very shortly, we're going to have Eric Hosmer at 5:05, Yes Guy, No Guy at 5:30, Bruce Garriock at 5:45, because the Senators finally have their land deal done and the new arena will be on its way, so we'll flesh that out. Richard Griffin will be by at 6:05, Mark Ross talking NFL at 6:30, and Keegan's Keys at 4:25. Keys to Blue Jay success. You all set for that?
I hope so. They look like they're handling it well themselves.
Yeah.
But, man, oh, man. What a weekend in Los Angeles.
It was. And by the way, so we've talked many times over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
We met face to face for the first time about 35 minutes ago.
30 minutes ago. We used to do so many 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. radio hits for the millions of Ontarians listening.
Not with me.
We've done
I don't do mornings.
hundreds of radio appearances. Yep. That's been one of the cooler things about coming in here is meeting people who I've texted 100 times, talked to 100 times, and they all say, man, you're better looking in person. It's great.
Well, the phone has an eerily similar look. I mean,
it does.
Oh, man. Well, I was saying earlier, I was like, yeah, I've met Keegan a handful of times, but I don't think it's ever been in a situation where beverages weren't involved.
Hey.
Oh.
Best from a distance. But you know what? You never know. How long do we have left? 2 hours, 59 minutes?
7:02. We'll see what's happening by 7:02.
Expect the tray to show up just as you're leaving.
I like it.
So I guess, we're going to do a Perry Mason on you. AB and I are going to grill you. The first question is, what is your expert testimony on what you saw on the weekend against Los Angeles?
I wonder if the words of Mason Fluharty have ever been said on OverDrive. I doubt it. It's got to be one of the first few. It's to an extent that it's about to be discussed. I can tell you that. Amazing how that worked out. The first couple of games showed you what you have to be afraid of if you're a Blue Jays fan or if you're the Blue Jays, which is a team that can out-star power you. And the Blue Jays have done a very good job of putting all the pieces together, of adding 10 players to get the output of 12 or 13. They're really squeezing a lot out of that lemon, but you can get out-star powered. You can get out Ohtani. You can get out Freddie Freeman in the postseason. Mookie Betts had a big series. Mookie sure did. And that's what can happen to the Blue Jays. I know that's being picky, but we're not talking about sneaking into the playoffs now. We're talking about taking a run at a World Series, something serious. And you can get out superstarred if you're the Jays. That's why they need Vladdy. It's why they need Bo. But then in the final game, you see some of the magic. And if you're not going to outstar someone, you have to have a little bit of that magic. They had that in Ernie Clement with that big late home run. In Mason Fluharty, who got thrown into a situation, like, come on, against Ohtani and Mookie Betts. Ridiculous. 2 of the biggest outs of the season from a guy that is, number 10 on the list. I would have expected to get those.
So let's just break down the Ohtani at-bat with Fluharty. I mean, educate us on how he approaches that. He went right after him. I mean, that was fun to watch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where's all that coming from?
Going right after him with not a big arsenal of pitches. If you're Chris Bassett, no problem. Splitter, curveball, slider, fastball, splitter. You can keep him guessing. Mason Fluharty is going to throw that sinking fastball and that big bending breaking ball we saw over and over. If I know that, an idiot in a chair here, Shohei Ohtani knows it. My goodness. And Ohtani's approach, fouling those off with big cuts. If I'm on the mound, I'm shaking at that point. And I think back, guys, to when Fluharty first came up to the big leagues. There was a lot of talk over, my God, John Schneider's throwing this guy to the wolves right now. And his first few outings were in ridiculously high-tension situations. And Fluharty, sometimes there's a beauty in being the guy that's just not supposed to be there. Because you know what? House money. Screw it.
Right.
Let's see what happens. And if Shohei Ohtani takes you deep, he was supposed to. Because he's Ohtani, you're Fluharty. Hey, that's how it was going to go. The manager's not going to get blamed, not you. But he kept going at him. And in that 3-2 count, I was sure it was going to be a ball. I was sure he was going to walk him. And I have all the respect in the world for how he handled that. And then the final out of the game as well. And, man, the over-under on cold beers on that charter flight home for Fluharty and the guys. Take the over. But just an incredible performance, indicative of how this Jays team works. Man, it was not supposed to be Fluharty, but it had to be, and he did it.
But that's kind of what this team's done all year, where they've had these unsung heroes come up in big moments, whether it's, at times it's been Lo Perfido, since he's come up after the All-Star break. How many big moments has Barger had, who wasn't on this team at the start of the season, right? Ernie Clement has come up with some big things. Miles Straw, Dalton Varsho, like the guys who aren't stars have come through. That internal improvement has kind of come through. And last night was Mason Fluharty's turn. Louis Varland deserves a lot of credit for that, too. Yeah. Kind of stop the bleeding. Because, that was not a good outing for Eric Lauer. Probably the worst outing that he's had so far this year. It's been a nice season for Lauer. But obviously gets yanked in the third. And you got to piece together a bullpen day. Coming off an afternoon game, coming off a night game, bit tough. But Louis Varland went in through, an inning and 2/3. I think he ended up getting out there.
Touched 100.
So touched 100, got the outs that he needed to, stop the bleeding, and kind of reset the game from there, and the Jays were able to get back into it. So he deserves a lot of credit, and obviously the bullpen kind of kept things in check at that point. But those two guys, those two pitchers who, again, 3 weeks ago, you had no idea if those two were going to factor in. I mean, Barland wasn't even on the team at that point, and Fluharty was kind of, is this guy a big leaguer? Is he going to go down once Garcia gets back and they add some guys at the deadline? Well, all of a sudden now you look, okay, Fluharty might be a guy.
Yeah.
He might be a guy, and he showed he's got some cojones in a big-time situation like last night.
Even who came in after Varland, Braden Fisher.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a throw-in in the Kevin Biggio deal last year who I didn't care enough about to write. And it's at this point of the season, when I see a trade like that go down, you make a decision. There's a certain bar that something needs to clear for me to write a story or tweet about it. And I remember looking at these stats. Okay, Braden Fisher, he's in the minors. These are his numbers. Okay, whatever. That can be a note at the bottom of a notebook. Now he is one of the most important relievers in this entire bullpen. I look at the lineup yesterday. 5 on down. Ty France, Dalton Varsho, Ernie Clement, Lo Perfido, Tyler Heineman. It's, guys, it makes me think to spring training when I shouldn't say waste all that time because I love being in Florida in February and March. But so many times where I'm here on OverDrive and I'm talking about, hey, guys, hear the mighty word of baseball. Here's what's going to happen this year.
Yeah.
Here's the player that's going to be important here. These are names we never talked about. I never said Braden Fisher's name. I never talked about Ernie Clement being not just a fill-in guy, but a legitimate starter, a high upside player.
Yeah.
Amazing. He's one of the more underrated players in the AL, I think. They're getting it from everywhere. And it's still happening, guys. It's August 11th. A month in, I thought, hey, luck, poof, it's gone. It's still happening.
Well, but it happens with the game on the line. It's not something that you look at the box score and go, hey, this guy did this and it was early in the game. It's with the game on the line. Somebody steps up, delivers a hit. I mean, there's Clement yesterday with the big home run after a fielding error, and they bounce back, don't they?
Ernie Clement, like that big home run in that moment blows me away because he's built for speed, for contact. Ernie's an incredible athlete. You put him in a competition of 5 or 6 different sports, one of the best all-around athletes in Major League Baseball. But I've had meals bigger than the guy. Ernie is not a large person. He is your classic middle infielder who is quick and twitchy, but not built for power. You can see him there, but turning on that pitch in the right spot, knowing who he is. Ernie Clement impresses me so much, guys, because a classic story of someone who, again, when the Blue Jays claimed him, I believe it was from the A's in spring training, I don't think I bothered to write a story that day because it was another, mid-March, this guy is going to plug in AAA. I see 10 of these a year. This Blue Jays team is going to be stuck in my head for years because of stories like that. There's never a move that doesn't matter because it might turn into this.
Every player that's come up has seemingly had a moment, and that's what I think is so special about this group. Right? Like, think how many guys realistically have come up and called up their AAA that's been a dud?
Not many. And that's where I see the clubhouse. And I spend so much time around this team, and I still struggle to determine what a clubhouse means or what the value is. And I'm very hesitant to talk about it because it's still not my place. I'm a visitor in that clubhouse. Even though I'm there for an hour a day, probably longer than they'd like, I'm a visitor, and I still don't know it like they know it. But when I see young players come up, Braden Fisher, some of these young position players, Joey Lo Perfido spoke to this when he came back, they are immediately empowered. Because I've been around teams where the new guy who comes up, the waiver claim who comes up for a day, he's sitting out in the stairwell. He's on FaceTime with his family because you can tell he doesn't really know anybody. He's out in the dugout scrolling his phone because you can tell no one's talked to him yet. These are adults, they're pros, but it's still a social dynamic like anything else. Now I see immediately when a player is up, they're in the middle of a card game, they're talking to the guys, and John Schneider, importantly, is probably putting him in the lineup immediately. And if you go 0-for-4, well, you were still part of a win probably, and you feel like you're part of the team. I think this is where we see the clubhouse, which is normally a fluff storyline. I think it's real this year.
Well, that's what we're watching. We see that in terms of who's performing, and a guy gets called up and delivers right away. I mean, it just feels like how you described that. So you said earlier, like, they can get out star powered. Does this, the way the Jays do this, does this remind you of any other team that you've seen in Major League Baseball before?
Man, you'd need to go back through a lot of Blue Jays team years, and even when you look back through more of those 80s teams where they were getting contributions from all over, in terms of Blue Jays context, going back through a lot of the teams the Blue Jays have been stuck up against.
That Royals team back
the Royals is where I'm going,
2015.
They did a lot of everything.
Yeah.
The ball and play a ton. Not a ton of power, but that was a little more extreme than this Blue Jays team, and they went heavy on the bullpen, which the Jays are trying to do. But this goes back to what David Popkins, their hitting coach, said in spring training, that great teams can score every way. And he used the word creative, which at the time I said, oh my God, here we go again. Creative. It's sometimes the simplest way is the best way because it's right there in front of you. But they have nailed creativity. And some days it's going to be Vladdy hitting a big 3-run home run, ideally a little more often. But other days it's going to be what we're seeing now, moving the ball around, playing great defense, great pitching. They are a very individual team. I can look at the Yankees and say, hey, they're boom or bust, hoping to God they hit 4 home runs. I've seen that type of team before. I've seen it a lot. And I've seen that team fall apart before when they go for a week without the home runs and suddenly their manager's getting tossed every day.
Oh, like the Yankees right now.
Is rare, man. It's rare what they've got going on, and they're a very individual team. Not many like them.
Are we ready to say that this is them though? Because you alluded to for the longest time we talked about when's the bubble going to burst? When's the bubble going to burst? Right? Guys like Clement, guys like Barger, they're going to regress back to the means. Miles Straw can't hit as well as he is, or Tyler Heineman can't continue to hit the dates he's got to fill in for Alejandro Kirk. But they've continued to do that, and we're now approaching mid-August, and everyone is still contributing to the same point. I'm looking at it right now in terms of, this team's OPS, or in terms of OPS plus, you've got a number of Blue Jays in WRC plus, 12 of them above league average at 107 or more. 12 Blue Jays with a WRC plus in the triple digits. That's since the All-Star break. So that's not pre-All-Star. Yeah. That's since All-Star break. The last month, they've just continued to put forward the type of offensive output that a lot of us expected to slow down. It hasn't. So are we getting to a point now where it's this is what the Blue Jays are? This is just a quality, deep ball club who just has an amazing approach at the plate. They're not striking out at all, although this weekend there was far more swing and miss than they had, previously. But this ball club is getting to a point now where it's okay, I think this is just what they are. They're just a quality offensive team.
That's where depth comes in, I think, which is, again, is another thing like creativity on the offense. It's another thing that when used wrong, kind of like the buzzword we've seen in recent years, there's great depth. Well, you can't have just depth. You need to build something on top of that foundation. Now they have both. And when you have the high-end outcomes with some depth as well, that allows you to have a week where maybe Nathan Lucas is a little slower. George Springer's not in the lineup. You lose Alejandro Kirk. Okay, boom. Here comes Bo Bichette with a big week. Here comes Joey Loperfido out of AAA, who I hadn't talked about in months to have a big month. They have quantity, and that's one of the best approaches. We like to talk about baseball, especially people in baseball. They like to talk about it like they can know and measure everything. The best approach to prospects, big leaguers, fringe guys, is to have 5 of them. Throw them at the wall, 1 or 2 stick, and you look smart. When you only have 1 or 2, they're going to bounce off that wall and come right back at you. But the Jays have quantity now, and it's working.
Well, maybe one of the better untold stories is player development.
Yes.
I don't think you expect to see that in Major League Baseball, but I think the Jays have been guilty of this for a number of years.
Their player development this year has been, I think, the best story in this whole organization. And it's not going to show in prospect rankings after the year, but they dealt. Cal Steven. They dealt Kendry Rojas, who was a really, really good left-handed pitching prospect, and they dealt Jaron Watts-Brown. Those are 3 top 10 pitching prospects who they've turned into their big additions in Varland, in Dominguez, in Bieber. So that's a way that this player development group has helped. But now I've spent a lot of years talking about how many guys are getting elbow surgery, and I'm not writing those stories this year, which is refreshing, and it's good for them. But they have made changes. They've looked at it and said, hey, here's where it was going wrong. And that's the first step. That's encouraging. I like that. And this group has done an incredible job this year. It's hard to measure that year over year, but there's so many success stories. You see that with Trey Savage coming up through the system. You see that with the pitching development success stories. They've nailed that. And that is what allows them to have this depth coming. And it's not even about 19-year-olds developing into big leaguers. It's about those 23 and 24-year-olds like a Braden Fisher, making that jump, unlocking just a little something extra. And the Jays, their farm system this year, incredible story, and is not getting a ton of attention because I know it's not the big leagues, but it's powering the big leagues.
Well, how about now Trey Savage moving up to AAA? That was announced earlier today. I think you broke that story open, Keegan, if I did see. I believe you got the scoop on that one. But, like, is he a guy, now that he's at AAA, like, is he a guy that you think could factor into the Major League Ball Club at this point? Like, why else would you move him up to AAA so quick?
Yeah,
you don't want to get a look at him before getting to the big leagues.
Has to be at a certain point. When he's down in AA, AA is the development level, AAA is the prove-it level.
Right.
Because when you get up to AAA as a pitcher, you are going to go up against maybe a few top prospects, but more importantly, that 32-year-old journeyman who's played 1,000 games in AAA, who is going to spit on your breaking ball and not jump at the things that the 20-year-old hitters are going to jump on. I think Trey Savage is going to overpower AAA as well. And not only is he an incredibly gifted pitcher, and I mean gifted, but he's an adult in all of this. And when I cover prospects as much as I do, I mean adult as a high compliment, because he has taken their development plan this year, he's run with it, he's nailed it, and he's been mature about it. And he's old school, man. He wants to strike you out, and he wants you to know that you just got struck out. I think people are going to love Trey Savage. And as you're seeing that on the screen right now for people watching, what's so special about Trey Savage, and for people listening on audio, it's his release point. He releases the ball straight up over his head. And what that does is create this incredible deception between his fastball and his curveball, because now that curveball is no longer humping up in the air. It's all coming downhill on you. It's like he has the high ground on the hitter, and it's attack, attack, attack. It fits his personality, and 15 strikeouts per 9 innings this year across 3 levels going on to his 4th is ridiculous. At a certain point, this is no longer about development. It's about one really simple question, guys. Is Trey Savage one of the 13 best pitchers? Yes. The answer is yes. It's been yes for a minute. I think it's yes today. It's going to be yes tomorrow. What's it going to look like? I'm not sure. Maybe that 2 to 3 inning role, if they can get him up. I think he'll pitch a bit in AAA Buffalo.
Yeah.
Maybe they consider putting him in the 40 later this month. A month ago, I said it was a 2% chance. It's not a majority percent chance right now, but it's bigger than that.
That's the storyline for the team. I mean, you could pretty well apply that to anybody who you didn't know about, and all of a sudden the guy goes up 5 rungs in the ladder overnight. So, obviously a glut of pitching, which is nice. They're talking about 6-man rotation to get to the end of the season. What's your take on that?
Rarely am I the 6-man rotation guy. I think this is when it makes sense, honestly. It's because so often when a team is talking about a 6-man rotation, I'm looking at it and saying, well, that guy sucks. Just make it a 5-man. Come on now. The Jays have 6 really good pitchers who deserve to be in a big league rotation right now. And, Eric Lauer's coming off a tough one. He's been one of the best stories of this whole season, and he gives you a lefty in there. That's important. I think that can stay a bit longer. How I see this going is Bieber coming back after another outing, and you can run with 6 for a bit. If it doesn't take care of itself by then, it will a couple starts into it. Somebody will be sore. Somebody will hit a wall. Somebody will have a velocity dip. It'll happen. But I think you can start out with that 6-man, and it's going to give people an extra day of rest. That can get a little bit long. I think there's only one tricky spot in early September where it would be a little too long rest. So that could be the turning point in this.
A couple off days in the schedule.
Yeah, a couple in there. And you don't want to get into being 7 or 8 days. But they have the talent there. And September 1, you could add another bullpen arm. You can beef that up and help them. I think it makes sense, as much sense as it's ever going to make, because you have 6 big league starters who are on any team in baseball an MLB caliber starter.
So my count is 43 games in 49 days. So there with the gaps in there, obviously there's a lot of work to be done, and they haven't obviously sealed the division, and Boston's in pursuit. So you have to watch that you don't sort of talk yourself into a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nice part, though, like over the weekend, you drop 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers, but you don't lose any ground in the division. Like the Padres did us a nice favor. They went out there and did, beat the Red Sox. They did their part for the Blue Jays, because you were looking ahead last week to the schedule. You got the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Rangers. Like, man, with the Red Sox on the Jays' heels, you're looking at that schedule. You're like, man, Toronto's got to win some ball games here. You're now looking, you're like, okay, they got through the Dodgers, didn't lose any ground. We'll see. The Cubs, very good ball team. They're coming in tomorrow. Then you got the Rangers. Just continue to do what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you look at that division race, guys, it's all about that now. And still sticking at 4 still, it's nice to be able to keep that there. The Red Sox are for real, though. I think they've been written off a little too early.
So, sort of a sidebar.
Hey.
I don't know if you've had this experience or not, but Shedeur Sanders with the Browns talking to reporter Tony Grossi about negative comments. Grossi works for ESPN Cleveland, and obviously he said something that Sanders didn't like. So here's the clip.
Tony, I be hoping you got something positive to say about me. You always say negative stuff about me. And I'm like, I ain't do nothing to you. No. I ain't seen nothing positive that you ever said. I think something positive every day. Come on, Tony. What I do to you, Tony?
Seems like they worked it out. Could have been worse.
What did I do to you, Tony? I love it.
Ever have anything like that?
Had a few. And let me say, I like how they handled that.
Yeah.
The guy stood there. They
smile.
I have seen players melt down. I've seen players scream at reporters. I've seen players make a scene. And that's going to be the same on any beat, on any sport, in any city. It happens. There's incredible pressure. And guys, if I showed up here today and had a terrible show and somebody wrote a story about how bad I was, yeah, I'd hate them too. I get it. If I wrote a bad story and somebody had that, it does happen. I do, unfortunately,
Don't open
the
Twitter.
mentions
Don't
sometimes.
open Twitter.
But if I were getting that much feedback from that many people, I get it. But that's how you handle it. You have a conversation face to face. You're both people. You're both human beings.
That's right.
And I liked how they handled that. I've had some more contentious than others. My favorites are the ones where maybe a player will keep it in mind and just remind me. I've had players saddle up to me in the clubhouse and just very quietly whisper, "So, Kiggs, I thought my power was gone," the day after hitting a home run. And that's a great way of them telling me, hey, dude, you're a bit of an idiot, but it's okay. We know how this game works.
Referenced.
And I've also had some players much more openly upset with what I've written. But back when I was, starting out on this beat 10 years ago, I had a veteran writer who covered the Jays for much longer than I'd been alive almost. There was a reliever one year in spring training who really had an issue with something I'd written about him. He was on the fringes of the roster. He was trying to hold on. And he took a shot at me in front of some people. So I said, okay, 8 a.m. the next morning, I'll be at your locker before you get there. I stood there. He stared a hole through my soul, wouldn't speak to me. I said, all right. I walked out, and this old reporter said, Kiggs, you'll be here longer than him. Don't worry about it. And that's how I try to think about it. You know, he may have made a bigger dollar than me, but I've stuck around a little bit longer. So as long as it's not Vladdy lighting me up, I try to let it bounce off me a little bit. But there are moments, and not as many as there used to be, though. I started out covering those, Bautista, Stroman, Donaldson type teams. And when I went into the clubhouse, I didn't know what was about to happen. Now it's a little more settled, but I kind of miss the wild card,
A lot of us do.
I know Bautista, because a couple of times I was in there, and that was like the same thing. A veteran reporter is like, here's a couple of rules. All right, don't talk to Russell Martin before he starts.
Yep.
Don't talk to Jose pregame, and then the starter. That was it. Don't talk to Russ, Jose, off limits, and then obviously whoever's starting in that game, which I found interesting, because then you got other guys who were very talkative. Like I remember Justin Smoke was always very talkative. Oh, yeah. Anytime you go out there, Kevin Pillar would sit there and chat with you. But some guys are just like, do not even look at that individual before the game. They're so locked in, zeroed in, dialed in.
Max Scherzer.
Scherzer's one of those guys.
If he's walking past me on a start day, I just pretend I'm on my phone. I don't even risk it.
Yeah.
You know?
Right away, go to the phone.
Did that start live up to expectations for you?
Wow, man.
Scherzer, I just, going into that game, I was so jacked up about it. We talked about it probably nearly the whole 3 hours of the show on Friday. And to see both them go out there and shove was pretty nice to see.
It's so cool. Like, that top of the sport, like Rogers versus a Brady, like type thing. It's just, you don't get them all that often. And for them to be doing what they're doing at this age is, I don't think I can even put into words how remarkable it is, because the human body is not made to throw pitches like that, and especially not do it for 25 years as a pro. The longevity, the more I cover baseball, the more impressed I am by longevity. There's 100 people who can throw 104 miles an hour. Whatever. Do you have an elbow 4 years from now? Those guys have done it for years and years. It impresses the hell out of me. Just amazing.
Totally agree with you. Longevity at that level is special.
Hard.
Sometimes we take it for granted, but it's special. Coming up next, Keegan's keys to the Jays as they move forward. And later on, Eric Hosper at the top of the hour talking baseball. Of course, you're listening and watching to OverDrive live on YouTube, TSN 1050, TSN 2.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Overdrive, Jim Taddy, Keegan Matheson, and Mike DeStefano, a.k.a. Al's brother, A.B., with you on a Monday, a sizzling Monday. The Jays off today at home to Chicago and Texas this week, then back out on the road again. Coming up in the next segment, going to play something to chew on, and the big question would be who's the biggest threat to the Jays? But in the meantime, we're going to play this game called Keegan's Keys, the Blue Jays' keys leading up to the playoffs. What do you have?
What do I have? It reminds me, guys, of when I'm sitting on my couch in the winter watching an NFL game, and they say the three keys.
Yes.
Establish the run, stop the run, force turnovers.
Win the game.
Thank you. Thank you. I have been enlightened. I have been lifted up off my seat.
Yeah.
But
I love the smart Alec answer. Or you ask a coach, what's the key to victory? Score more runs than the other team.
Oh, yeah.
Win the game.
John Gibbons used to love that
Gibby.
one. I can still remember one day pregame, he was asked, I forget who it was years back, but what's it going to take to beat the Red Sox? And he did his lean back and looks the guy up and down. Score more runs.
Score more runs.
And the answer is usually obvious. But yeah, guys, I wanted to look at some things that I think are going to determine who these Blue Jays are, because it's been a big shift in how we talk about them from the last 5 years, which is, golly, wouldn't it be nice to be invited to the playoffs as a wild card? Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
And I think that this entire market is in the middle of, and I think needs to continue to have, a shift in mindset. That the Blue Jays now think like the Dodgers think, like the Yankees think, where you're not trying to sneak in, you're trying to win the division. It's always supposed to have been about the division in this city. And any conversation about the Blue Jays has to start with Vladdy. It's always about Vladdy. And guys, I love what I've seen from Vladdy lately. Like, we're seeing a little bit more of the power. And earlier this season, I was vocal, and I wrote about it, that I think the Blue Jays needed more from Vladdy. And I know that not everyone loved that, but I believed it. And he was good, not quite over that line to being great. And I think he's there again. Now, he's at 19 home runs right now. When you look at his last 3 seasons, going back to his big 48-homer, almost MVP year, 32, 26, 30 home runs. This is just who he is now. And because Vladdy is built tall and broad and strong, we want 50 home runs. I don't know if that's going to be who he is, but he needs to be hitting doubles. He needs to be splitting the gap, and he needs to be doing something other than that early season base hit for him, which was the line drive to right center field over the second baseman. Everyone can do that. The guys built like Ernie Clemente and Jimenez can do that. Vladdy is someone who can change games. And I think we're seeing that now, guys. When you go back to the start of July, 963 OPS, 983, sorry. So that's even better than he was tracking last year. And I think we're seeing right now someone who is completely embracing his role. Like, I've covered Vladdy since he was 16. And I'm seeing someone who is really, he's long been a man and an adult in all of this. But I think he understands his role as the guy who does need to welcome the new guy, the guy who needs to speak up after a bad loss. And we're seeing this. And Vladdy lately, through that road trip, through these last couple of weeks, he looks like someone who can win a game again. We talked about getting outstarred by a team like the Dodgers. Vladdy can win a game. And when you're in the postseason, a 7-game series, the teams are going to be close enough. If it's Blue Jays, Dodgers in the World Series, they're close enough. Whoever steals a game wins the series, and I think Vladdy can steal a game.
Well, I mean, he's the face of the franchise. Are you comfortable that he's growing into that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time around Vladdy, and actually a couple of weeks ago, I spent some time at Vladdy's house with him for a story I have coming up in a few days, kind of a unique story, but just being around him away from the field with his family, it helped me understand what life as Vladdy is, because it's not all at the ballpark. The ballpark can be his sanctuary at times. It's very structured. At 3:05, you go hit with this guy. At 3:20, you go to this meeting. 3:40, you go to the hot tub. It's very structured and comfortable. But life in Toronto and life as the face of a franchise, when everybody wants a little bit of your time, and your cousins want your time, your family wants your time, your buddies want you, it's overwhelming. And I see a young man now who's 26. I mean, if you gave me $500 million at 26, I would have been in jail by the end of this sentence.
Yeah, see ya.
But I'm so impressed by how he's handling this, because every room he steps into orbits around him. He's not able to hide. He's not able to relax and go out and have a quiet dinner or go out to a friend's birthday party and be the guy in the corner. You never get to do that again. but I think he's embracing it. I think he's understanding it. And I think that takes effort. It doesn't come naturally to guys. I've seen the effort from Vladdy, and we're seeing that right now. If he plays out this contract, he's probably the greatest Blue Jay of all time. If he wins a World Series, boom, over. The conversation doesn't even need to be had. He's embracing it. And I always say, guys, being the face of the franchise is much different than being the best player on your team. And I do not think there are 30 faces of a franchise in Major League Baseball right now. It's hard to do because it takes a little bit of off-field stuff as well, and I think he's getting that off-field. On to number 2, fellas, as we move through the list, into the dugout now. John Schneider.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that we need to talk about John Schneider coming down the break here into the stretch run because in my books, John Schneider is a favorite, maybe the favorite for AL Manager of the Year.
That's quite a climb.
It is. I mean, yeah, as everyone predicted, as my beloved friends on Twitter all predicted prior to the year. But I don't have a manager vote this year. I have an MVP vote. Would prefer a manager vote, probably. It's the easier one. But the manager vote, I know how these work because I've voted on manager of the year before. You're around other managers enough, but of the 15 American League managers, do I know them well? No, I don't. So you look at which team overachieved. And if a couple of teams overachieved there, I probably have my number 1, my number 2. Maybe they're in Seattle or Kansas City. I haven't talked to them this year, but I'm a voter, and that's what I'm looking for. I think people from other cities are going to look at John Schneider and consider him a favorite right alongside A.J. Hinch of the Tigers.
Yeah.
And Schneider this year, guys, I go back to spring training, and I've long been a believer in Schneider because I'm a big believer that coaches and managers can develop and change. We tend to make up our minds, whether it's the NFL, Major League Baseball. Day one, you see a coach, nope, I hate the guy. Oh, he didn't throw it to my favorite player enough. Oh, he took out my favorite pitcher. I hate that guy, and I'm going to dedicate the next 7 years of my life to hating him. And I'm a big believer that they can change and develop, and I've seen that from John Schneider. I mean, outside of his wife and kids, I probably ask him more questions than anyone in the world, which, poor guy, number 1. But I'm around him too much.
Yeah.
Before every single game, after every single game. And I've seen that shift over the years. And I go back to spring training, guys, and it wasn't even a big media scrum. It wasn't a big conversation. But I remember one day, and it was, I'm there for 40 days, so we run into each other a lot. And just in between fields, Schneider and I were talking, and he kind of had this exhale, and he said, man, Keegan, and it was a little more colorful than this, but I think we've really got something here.
Really?
And I've learned over the years when someone is saying that for fluff and when they really mean it. And I think when I have relationships with coaches like this, they know that I'm probably not going to bite on the fluff anyways. So if they say it, I trust that. And I can still kind of hear how he was saying it, but there was this conviction in his voice. And I see a version of Schneider now who's really letting it rip. He's just letting it fly. He's doing what he thinks. And if it backfires, okay, it's going to happen a few times. But that's who he needs to be. He's never going to be the careful manager, okay? When he was coming up as a prospect manager, he was the guy who had some historic ejections, and he was the red face, as red as these logos are behind me.
Yeah.
That was him in the minor leagues. And that's when he's at his best, man. So we talk about players leaning into what they do best. John Schneider's doing that, I think.
The perception of John Schneider from the beginning of the year to now, next to probably George Springer, and you could probably throw Bo Bichette into that conversation as well. Schneider's probably the guy who's the perception of him has changed the most.
Yeah.
Because there was still that stench of taking out Barrios, right? That's still, even to this day, people still talk about that decision and how, there may have been no backbone and no feel and whatever it was. But now it seems like every button that this guy presses right now works, no matter how the lineup card is put together, his feel for what, like that Mason Fluharty, instead of letting Jeff Hoffman last night pitch to Ohtani and try and get that out, they paid him to be that guy. He said, I believe Fluharty will give us the better result. And he trusted that in his gut, and he went and he made that change. Went and made the call to the pen, brought in Fluharty. Boom. Worked out perfectly for him. Could have backfired, as you mentioned, but no one had any faith in Fluharty, so it wouldn't have mattered. No one would have put that on Schneider. But that was his decision, to go to the pen in that big moment and bring in Fluharty because it gave them the better opportunity to win. It's just little little tiny decisions like that have really built up over the season that have put this guy in the front runner for AL Manager of the Year. He's the betting favorite now for AL Manager of the Year. It was AJ Hinch for the longest time. But coming out of the All-Star break, the Tigers kind of fell a little bit. The Jays continue to soar. And now you're looking at that guy, and it's like, man, a year ago, people are clamoring for this guy's job. Now he's the best manager in the American League.
It's working. A week ago, I told him, Schneids, I was just on OverDrive, and they were asking me about what a good job you were doing. I didn't know how to answer that question. It's brand new to me, but it's working.
And he chuckled.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah,
but
number 3.
Next, guys, I move us to Andres Jimenez, who we'll touch on quickly. Jimenez is coming back soon, probably in this upcoming homestand. And is Jimenez their biggest, best player? No. Goodness, no. But he has to play, and this is when the roster gets a little bit awkward.
Does he? That's my question. Does he have to play?
I think he's got to play a bit. Probably in some sort of platooning role at second base with Ernie Clement, and then you work some of his at-bats around that. It's going to be a bit awkward, though, and this is, again, a good problem, but someone you traded for, someone you're paying legitimate money to who needs to get going. Santander is a bigger, more awkward decision, but Jimenez is going to be one. Coming down the list with a couple pitchers we'll finish up with, Jeff Hoffman. We talked about him a bit off the top. Guys, Hoffman coming into this, and listen, I don't like the broken down selected by date stats, but coming into it since June 1st, 2.86 ERA over his last 24 games. He'd been okay. In April, he was as good as I've seen a reliever in this city in the last 10 years. Winning games, not closing them, winning games completely. Then he was bad, then he was good. Who's he going to be down the stretch and in October? Because when we're talking about a 5 or 7 game series, if you blow one of those games, poof.
Isn't that a problem to have with your closer? Like, that's the one guy in the pen you want consistency from.
You want it to be a little more predictable. And we've seen this high wire act with Jordan Romano over the years, where he kind of liked to put a guy on second and third and make it spicy and make it interesting. But we're seeing it a bit with Hoffman. At his best, I'm blown away by who Jeff Hoffman is. And there's a little bit of swagger to it as well. He wants to close that game and blow the kiss to the other dugout. It works when it works. But last night, with that Dodgers game, the 5 walks, it's tough to watch happen as it unfolds. Louis Varland is there. Sir Anthony Dominguez will help. But they're going to need Jeff Hoffman because at some point, there's going to be a game, 3-2, game 5, elimination game. Is he going to come up? And there's a ton of pressure on Jeff Hoffman. Then, guys, moving to the very end of the list, and we can spend the last couple minutes on Shane Bieber here. But who is Shane Bieber going to be when he comes back? And if he returns as the ace caliber pitcher, the Blue Jays can win a World Series. If he returns as an okay pitcher, I still see that path being a little difficult. It's always going to be difficult. But they're going to need to add to that Gausman-Scherzer game 1, 2, 3 start.
Oh, you're penciling in Scherzer.
Scherzer, I am. I'm a believer.
Wow.
Because what I think about, guys, is game 3 with or without Shane Bieber. I think that Max Scherzer, the way he's pitching right now, looks like it in that game 2 or 3. If Shane Bieber is not dominant, by game 3, the Blue Jays are at a disadvantage against a good team. My God, against the Dodgers. Of course, we saw the pitching they rolled out this weekend, even with Yamamoto backed out. If the Blue Jays can get Bieber back to who he was, man, that gives them a 1 and 2 with Gausman. Maybe a Scherzer in game 3. That's when it gets really fun.
Wow. We're already going there.
I like it. We're making plans. I was just staying outside. I need to start booking hotels. Preparation is key.
Yeah. Yes, guy to that. Okay, coming up next, who is the biggest threat to the Jays in the American League? So we've got some options there as OverDrive continues live on YouTube, TSN2, TSN 1050.
Back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Everybody get your roll on. I know shorty and she doesn't want
Overdrive, Jim Taddy, Keegan Matheson from MLB.com, and Al's brother, Mike DiStefano. Overdrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We're going to play something to chew on now, and it's brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy a $15 lunch at BP, where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. A fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. So the question is, who possesses the biggest threat to the Jays? Could that be the Astros, Mariners, Tigers, Red Sox, or maybe themselves? Maybe themselves.
Jeff Hoffman.
Okay. Wow.
It's got to be the Red Sox, I think. I mean, that's the team within the division, right? That's the team that they're facing. Outside of the division, I mean, what the Mariners are doing right now. I mean, they've won, what, 7 of 8 since the All-Star game. They're getting home runs. Julio Rodriguez, his bat has come alive again for them. Got great pitching. They added at the deadline. I think probably the Mariners would be the biggest threat, but I think the Red Sox have to be right there too.
They had such a good base of pitching already, too, the Mariners. And they were aggressive at the deadline, and they've got a bit of that magic built up right now. And we've seen how that goes for the Blue Jays against the Mariners in the postseason. And when I look down the list, the Red Sox, you try to think of more of a momentum. Like, I get real, what have you done for me lately? At this time, I don't care about the run differential or any of that stuff that doesn't matter and people don't actually care about. But I look at what the Red Sox are doing right now. That can be scary. We've seen the Blue Jays handle the Tigers. Yeah, they're scary. Yeah, they could beat the Blue Jays 4 out of 10 times, I'm sure. But I don't think that's the biggest threat right now. The Mariners absolutely have to be in that conversation. The Red Sox belong in there as well. The Astros, especially after adding Correa, I love that. Bringing back the band, some experience at that point. But the Blue Jays, I think, have earned the right to kind of be their own biggest threat, if that makes sense. When you're at the top, it's about keeping your own momentum going, and they're good enough to control any situation they're in. But we've seen lately some of the things that can go wrong, even for the very best teams.
Well, it's the pitching, right? That's what concerns you most, is the pitching. Whether it's, and you've seen some off starts from Barrios and Bassett. Even Gausman hasn't necessarily put together 4 or 5 quality starts in a row. It's been a couple, but you haven't seen a big month out of Gausman. You know, and ultimately the bullpen, Jeff Hoffman's going to be the biggest question mark for me. You know, like if Jeff Hoffman doesn't put it together between now and how long do you let Jeff Hoffman kind of work out his kinks before you try some other guys?
Still a bit longer after this. Like, given how he was doing through June, through July, and he's still the closer, but it's given how small a switch I think that would be, I think you still ride it for a while. Because moving Louis Varland
how long's a while? Like, is that like...
Into September. Okay. I'm not too urgent with it because it's not like you're installing a new quarterback who needs to take over an offense or there's not a lot of learning involved in this. It's just, hey, Louis, Yariel, Sir Anthony, go out there this time instead.
Throw strikes. Please.
And it's the same deal. And I've seen how good Jeff Hoffman can be. If this was a 4.5 ERA that looked like a 4.5 every single day,
right?
You replace that. But he has looked 85% of the time like a dominant, elite closer. The other 15% have been pretty tough. So you're trying to find how you can get over that 85 and make it a little bit bigger. I think my concern on the pitching side is more about the home runs, guys, which is still a Jeff Hoffman topic, absolutely. But they're starting pitchers, 108 home runs allowed. Only the A's at 111 have allowed more. They've been pretty homer prone, and that can break open a playoff game really quick.
Yeah, I would suggest that, you know, the Jays are in the driver's seat, so it's up to them to do the job. And if somebody gets by them, it's because they stumbled. I think that when we look at the Jays, though, you'll probably agree with me that you're looking for that sort of pristine performance, and I don't know that we're going to get it because it's an ensemble cast. You know, the Hoffman stuff could be just normal wear and tear at this point of the season. You know, Bieber comes up, and we were talking in break. You said he could get 5 or 6 starts. I mean, that's sort of a change in direction, isn't it?
Yeah, and you'd better nail it when you do that at that point. And I think the pieces will come together in this bullpen. The bullpen itself was pretty good. It was stumbling a little bit midseason when you had some Chad Green injuries, Jimmy Garcia being out. That's tough. But Varland, Sir Anthony Dominguez is a monster in the playoffs. He has been incredible in the postseason. And I believe in that. Like, the postseason's a big, scary place. If you can succeed there, I don't call that luck. I don't care if it's 5 innings. He's got about 20. I believe in that for Dominguez. But Bieber coming back, that will, I think, only add to this. He is a pitcher who should be pretty predictable. This is not your 99 throwing scatterball pitcher coming back. I think in both of his AAA outings so far in the rehab, he's had 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Just very predictable. Shane Bieber is Shane Bieber every day. If he has a 2.5 ERA, it's because he's giving up 2.5 runs exactly somehow every single start. He's the same guy every time. I don't think that disturbs too much. But Hoffman in the bullpen, that's still in flux. Dominguez, Varland, and then Yariel Rodriguez is always there lurking, a very, very underrated pitcher. He could do anything as well.
So we're projecting the Jays for the rest of the season, regular season, and what could happen in the playoffs. Nice to be in that position. Coming up in the next hour, Eric Hoffman, the former MLB player, will stop by on the Toyota hotline. After that, some yes guy, no guy. And after that, Bruce Garriock. There is a hockey story. The Ottawa Senators are all mapped out. The Breton Flats situation is done, so the new rink is on its way, and things are looking up for the Senators. And that's been a long developing story, but finally it looks like it's reached the final stage. Overdrive continues. TSN 2, TSN 1050, and live on YouTube.
We're going to do whatever we can to bring a Lombardi to Western New York.
Resilient, tough, that is Buffalo to a core, baby.
Go, 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 go! The race is on. The Amazing Race Canada, all new, Tuesday at 9 on CTV. This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
OverDrive, hour number 2. Jim Taddy, Keegan Matheson from MLB.com, Al's brother, Mike DiStefano in the house, guiding you through a sizzling Monday. Sizzling. Did I say that? Coming up very shortly on the Maple Toyota Hotline, Eric Hosmer, former MLB player. And just to update, we were talking about things that could threaten the Jays in the American League. According to the poll on X, Astros leading the way, 31%. Can't count out the Astros.
Always. Some teams just get that postseason magic. I know some of it used to be aided, but it doesn't go away, and they've got some of those pieces back together again.
I'm disgusted that 10 years later, they're still so good. Like, this team, just the longevity here, this club, they trade away Kyle Tucker, and they're still so good.
What a farm system does, like finding a Pena to come up and then bringing back Correa like that. That's what a farm system does, man. You can sustainable winning is a myth a lot of the time, unless you have a lot of money and a farm system, but they got it.
I think it Javier back too in the rotation. I thought I saw.
Yeah, the pitching is getting better. It's working there, man. They're always scary. The Astros are just always going to be scary in this competitive era.
We just don't like repeated excellence unless, of course, it's in your city.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing boring about that.
Yeah, we don't get to experience that a whole lot here in Toronto.
No, guy. No. None at all. In fact, none.
No. 2019 was nice.
Yeah, well, it was.
2019 was nice for the Raptors.
It was.
I guess the Argos won a couple championships since then.
Yeah.
Boy, that was a tough
year.
loss on the weekend. Oh, boy.
Oh.
88 points. Can you imagine 88 points? Hope he took the under, Keith.
Wow.
88. I think it was a 40.
Good Lord.
41.
A lot of rouges.
47,
Coach
41
called out
final.
his team.
Yeah.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have that clip. Let's do that clip. Ryan Dinwiddie calling out the Argos players. He called them pretenders. Wow. Strong.
I sound like a broken record, talk to them after games, I just told them I'm not going to quit on them, and I don't think those guys quit on us, but I think we got some pretenders in the building, right? Like to talk a big game and don't show up on game day. So when, after I got done speaking, said, similar message, we just don't have enough dogs, man. We got guys that I said, look, when we walk in the building, we all leave country from the United States, come up here, and we have Canadians that leave from different provinces come up here. Guys, we sacrifice a lot to win football games. Now, you don't love it, let me know. I know I love it, and I ain't going to quit.
Wow, that's strong.
Yeah.
That's strong.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We don't have enough dogs. If you don't love it, let me know. Now, that can either land like a dud in your locker room, or it can really, really work. I hope for his sake it landed, because that's risky.
I
love that.
The team that's 2-7 now after losing to Ottawa, down at the bottom of the rankings there in the East. There's no sign of Chad Kelly. You're going forward with Arbuckle. I'd love to know who he was talking about, though.
I mean, for a coach to talk
Pretenders?
like that has to be so obvious that if he didn't say it, it would be noticeable, right?
They know. The pretenders know, and everyone else is looking out of the side of their eye like, that guy knows. I love it. That's a great press conference.
How do you pretend in football?
I just get excited about a press conference like that because John Schneider wouldn't do that, but I get excited about a dynamite quote like that.
Sometimes that's the end of the code.
That's incredible.
When they start talking like that. But in this case,
especially you got a record like that.
Yeah.
Now he's won a championship last year, and there's a lot of excuses that you can make for why the Argonauts are having such a tumultuous season. But
a lot of player turnover.
It's a quick way to lose a locker room.
But
very quick way to lose a locker room.
It has to be absolutely obvious for you to say that. Otherwise, people are going to doubt you.
We got to make sure
keep that in. You could say that to your group, but to bring that to the media, I don't know if that's the play.
Well, it would be if you've said it many times in the room and nobody listened.
Well, if that's the case, if that's the case, you've already lost your room.
Well,
no.
Well, 2-7, you're in desperate shape.
The
season's just hanging there.
That loss to Ottawa, I think, just crippled the season this weekend. I think so.
All right, let's switch gears. Let's go back to Major League Baseball. Eric Hosmer is here, former MLB player. Wow. And host of the Digging Deep podcast. Eric, welcome. How are you?
Doing all right, fellas. How you doing?
Very good. We can see you. There you are. Okay. So we were talking about, we had a little segment before this talking about things that are a threat to the Jays, and we talked a lot about Boston. What'd you read on the Red Sox?
Red Sox are a dangerous team. I was actually just at Fenway Park when Kansas City was in town, a couple games. And what's dangerous about the Red Sox right now is they got a guy, Garrett Crochet, the whole world knows about him. And it's basically win day. He's going tonight for them. And they fully expect each and every day that he takes the mound that they're going to win. So any kind of momentum when they get close to his start day, if they win 1, 2, 3 in a row, it feels like 4 with him going the next day. So they're dangerous right now.
Well, Crochet's a guy where, a month ago wasn't even on the rate. Well, maybe on the rate, but like Tariq Skubal's running away with the American League Cy Young Award. I'm looking on FanDuel right now. We're looking at just plus 150 for Crochet. He's shrunk that lead pretty good. What do you like his odds if Boston can go on a big run here?
Definitely do. And, Crochet's a guy that he was a reliever coming up with Chicago early. Then he transitioned to starter. So he's really, this was the first year that he was going to take on that 200 innings. And he continues to get stronger. You can tell by his body. I mean, his lower half. The guy looks like Travis Kelce out there on the mound. He's a monster. He's like every bit of 250, 260 probably. But the thing with the Red Sox that's dangerous about them is you look at their lineups against left-handed pitching. And the Yankees, I know they're fading away. The Blue Jays are doing great. But if you look at them against a tough lefty, which there is in the East, in AL with Skubal and a couple other guys that you mentioned in the American League, they match up real well against them. But I'd certainly love the way Toronto plays, and it's going to be a fun, exciting pennant race in the AL East, that's for sure.
Eric, sticking in the AL East there with the Yankees, who you mentioned, things do not seem to be going well there. There seems to be frustration. We've seen Booney being kicked out of a few games there lately. From the outside looking in, as a former player, do you see this as one of those things that just happens in a season, or do you think they're in trouble here coming through August?
Well, I see a lot of things. First of all, I think Aaron Boone, I credit what he's doing right now, believe it or not, because, man, he continuously takes it for the players. I mean, you continue to see sloppy baseball on the base pass defensively, and he continues to take those bullets, so to speak, in the media. And he's not, he's putting his players in a position where it's like, hey, I'm going to take all the bullets. I'm going to take all the attention. You guys go out there and play. So to me, it's on the players. The players got to step up because the manager's taking shots for him. The manager's, doing what he is doing in that tough market. So those guys can focus on going out and playing ball. And the thing with the Yankees is it's always been they got all these mistakes they got to clean up, and we'll wait till Judge gets back. But at the end of the day, when you're trying to win a world championship, you got to do more than just clean it up and rely on Aaron Judge. You got to start playing some baseball.
Well, and Judge, since returning, he's been in the lineup for 6 games now, has yet to hit a home run. How much do you think that elbow injury is kind of hindering him at the plate right now?
It could be hindering a lot. If you see mechanically, if it's something that really he's trying to switch up so he can, get fully healthy until that can throw something off. Baseball, you take a couple of days off from seeing live pitching. It's almost like you got to tune all the way up again. So, I remember saying it with you guys a couple of times last year and mentioning it throughout the postseason. I do not know why teams pitch to him. I would, unless obviously they're putting their hottest hitter behind Aaron Judge, I would give him the 4 pass every single time. So he's in a tough spot because he knows guys aren't trying to attack him. He knows he's not getting pitches to hit, and he's got to find a way to get it going. And sometimes that's only 1 pitch a night.
Eric, let me bring you to the local Toronto Blue Jays here. We've been talking a lot today about kind of the magic that they've been able to recreate this year. We're not projected to be this team. They were not projected to be the best in the AL, but they've made it work. And when I speak to these players, a lot of them point to the clubhouse. And I'm in the clubhouse a lot every day covering this team. But that's not my space. I'm not there when the doors are closed. I'm not on the charter where I know a lot of the important stuff happens. What does a good clubhouse as a former player do to you? And what can a bad clubhouse drag you down? Like, how does that actually feel? How does that change your day?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the bad clubhouse, it just feels like it's clicked up and everything is individualized. You go get 2 hits, the team loses, and you're back at your locker and you're like, man, this isn't right. I want to win the game. I want that. You see clicks and all that. The winning clubhouses, I mean, you can tell these guys with a 162-game schedule, you got to find any type of motivation, and that can come from anywhere. That can come from a plane ride with the boys. That can come from a bus ride. When these guys hit doubles and they're signaling something back into the dugout, I'm sure that's something crazy that's happened on their plane ride or bus ride. And it seems like Springer's a guy that brings that whole group together. Vladdy Jr., obviously, if he's going to be your superstar, he seems like a guy that has to make others around him better, and he certainly does. And that Toronto club, I tell you what, if you compare it to hockey, you know, their offense, the way that they show athleticism on a baseball field, it's almost like, okay, if the bats aren't working today, we can go to a second, third line change. We can beat you athletically on the bases. We can play baseball defensively. So there's many ways that team can beat you, and it's a fun team to watch. I've been watching them a lot this second half.
Eric Hosmer with us on the Maple Toyota Hotline. So to continue that point, you know, Keegan mentioned earlier that in the Dodgers series they could outstar the Jays. The talent would be better, the top-end talent. Obviously, it puts a bit of pressure on Vladdy, but that's that part about depth players, people coming up, rising to the occasion. How relevant is that, and does it remind you of anything you've seen before?
Yeah, it certainly is. Like you said it, you're not going to match up star versus the Dodgers. So, you know, you really can't just try and beat them that way. You got to find ways to beat those guys, whether it's on the base pass. You know, a lot of their relievers come in and they're 1-6, 1-7 to home plate. They really don't care too much and put too much value into holding runners on. So, you know, maybe you beat them on the bases, maybe you play some small ball, drop a bunt down every now and then, get a hit and run going, which I see from Toronto a lot. Those guys can play baseball, and they seem to know when the right time to push those buttons, especially for the role guys. And the guys that come up through their system know exactly what their job is to do. And I think that's something special. And I hate to be that guy, but, you know, obviously it kind of reminds me of 2014, our Kansas City Royals team. You know, we weren't, you know, they have superstars. We didn't really have that big superstar. We can play the game and beat you many ways offensively. And I think the Toronto Blue Jays team right there have the superstars, and they can beat you in any way if the bats aren't there that night.
When you compare it to that team there, we talk a lot about contagious hitting, Eric, and I hear this a lot from the Blue Jays players there, the lack of pressure. If you are Vladdy, you do not need to hit 2 home runs. Your team can still back you up. If you're Bo, you don't need to go 4 for 4 every single night, even though he's kind of doing that lately. How's that feel, and how much do you think it helps role players? I'm talking about guys further down the roster who play 4 times a week. What does it do for those types of players on a team chasing a postseason spot?
Well, you just look at the Rogers Center right now. You look at the games, the energy in that place. I mean, it's electric. So when you get the Yankees to roll in there for 3 games, you come in off the bench, you steal a big base, and you feel, you know, 40, 45,000, whatever it is, people going nuts, and that place is shaking. You know, if you're a young guy, you feel like you just contributed to that game, and you can just walk out throughout the city with your chest out, and that does a lot for your confidence. So I think that's just for the reality of what they're in. They're in a pennant chase right now. They're playing each and every game of this second half as if it's almost a playoff game, and that's what the energy certainly seems like. So that's where the confidence for a young fella can really go through the roof there. If you make any kind of big play defensively, contribute to anything late in the innings there, late in the game, it's electric, man. I'm telling you, watching in the Rogers Center through TV right now, it looks awesome, and it's going to be fun to watch the postseason go through there if they continue this lead on the AL East.
So you said, you know, a couple times now you've been keeping an eye on the Blue Jays. When you look at them, I mean, do they look like a World Series ball club to you?
They certainly do. And I think, you know, they went out and got Bieber throughout the deadline. I love Bieber. I hope he's healthy throughout their postseason. But they have a couple wild cards that it's going to be interesting to see what happens and what they do. Obviously, Hoffman's their closer, but something I've always teased is Mad Max. You know, Mad Max, if you were to see him in a relief role or maybe even a closing role, you know, with all due respect to Hoffman and Max, I don't know who you would give the 9th inning to, whoever's more comfortable. But, you know, Mad Max has had so many innings. He's had a lot of miles on that arm. To get him up and going for 200 innings is a hard ask. And obviously the postseason, having him go 6 and 7 every 4 or 5 days is tough. So I would love to come see him air it out for 1 inning in the 8th, 9th. You know, he's got that mentality, that high energy for a closer. You guys can throw some LED lights and get some fire for him to come out of the bullpen there and get him fired up to go in the 9th inning.
So give us a player's perspective. Maybe it's 2014. When you're a player on a team like this, how do you know when it's legitimate?
You just feel it every single night, you know, and then I think when you know it's legitimate is when you're going through all your pregame meetings and you know your formula. If you execute your formula, then we're going to win. We have so much confidence in our starting staff offensively. If we play the defense that we know we play and we find a way to execute 3, 4 runs, 4 or 5 runs, that's good enough. That's a good enough standard to win each and every night. And it feels like that's where they're at because you can just see the confidence and they're going out there saying, if we play our game, we're going to win majority of these nights, and they are.
Eric, when you look around the league now, when you're having conversations with people around different parks you go to, you said you were in Boston. I know you're bouncing around the league. How do you find other people talk about the Blue Jays right now? Because they've surprised people in Toronto and in Canada, And around the league, I think it's still at a point where people are looking up and saying, oh, the Blue Jays, who were bad a year ago and were supposed to be 500 or something like that, are suddenly up at the top of the AL battling the Tigers. They're taking over the Yankees. What do you think the conversations are like about that surprise around the league, and are you hearing that more?
Yeah, the perspective has completely flipped, and I'm one of them. I'm hand up, I admit, because I did not think very highly of the Blue Jays, and maybe that's lack of knowledge of their system. You know, it kind of seemed like Vladdy at the beginning of the year, Vladdy, Bichette Jr., they didn't know whether or not they wanted in or out. And I tell you what, I was completely wrong, and so was everybody else, because the way they're playing in the AL East now, Baltimore's kind of taking a step backwards, and it seems like Toronto is taking 2-3 steps forward. And in the offseason, it seemed like they finished second on a lot of big-time free agents, and they've just bounced back from all of it. And, you know, they're playing some meaningful baseball out there, and credit to those guys in that clubhouse, because, you know, that's, in baseball terms, that's a lot of adversity, so to speak, to rally up on. And they certainly are getting rallied up, and they're playing meaningful ball out there, and I love to see it for them.
We were talking earlier, Eric, about the Blue Jays coming off their big win against the Dodgers over the weekend. Jeff Hoffman couldn't get it done. They brought in Mason Fluharty, who's a middle reliever, Ohtani, Mookie Betts at the end. You have been on some of those good flights home. And I know that's sacred ground. You cannot take us entirely inside the airplane afterwards. What's it like, man, when you are chasing a postseason spot? You've got everybody pulling in the same direction. You board that plane. You've got an off day the next day. I'd imagine that's got to be one of the best experiences in baseball.
Oh, it's electric. And, you know, I would have went right up to Hoffy, gave him a beer, cheers him, and said, hey, man, like, we bailed you out. We got you. We're going to get this matchup again in October, and you're damn sure right. You're going to lock it down. Again, that is if my Mad Max idea doesn't happen, whether that's the 8th or 9th inning. But that's the type of, you know, that's the type of atmosphere those guys have. And Hoffman's enough. He's had enough time in the league that he's comfortable, you know, within his abilities, that he knows that's not going to happen. He's going to bounce back. And when they're there in October, those saves and those meaningful outs late in the game, he's going to be there for those guys. You know, he's done it in Philly in a big time market and big time games. So he's confident, the team's confident, and that's just how you pick one of your teammates up right there. And I feel like that's exactly how the Blue Jays are treating it.
Well, Matt Max, you know, had an all-time pitching matchup the other night against Clayton Kershaw. You would have played against both of these guys, sat in a batter's box against both of them in their prime. Who was the tougher pitcher?
Ooh, man, I tell you what, I mean, their primes were so long. I don't know when you would actually, like, you know, nail down 2-3 years. So I definitely faced Mad Max when he was in Detroit, and that's when, you know, that staff out there, him, Verlander, they were just, you know, on top of their game. Kershaw, I got to Kershaw's prime, I would say, late when I was in the NL West. But, man, it's so impressive because it just feels like both guys have really lasted throughout, like, 3 generations of baseball. They've changed their game. They've outlasted these trends. And, you know, when they became older in their career and their stuff has dialed down just that one notch, whatever it is, they still find ways to get out. So both guys incredible. And, man, both Hall of Famers for sure. That was a cool matchup.
So for the Jays, I mean, what is the biggest surprise for you? You know, we could talk about the roster, but the manager's a pretty good surprise too, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's a big thing too, is, you know, he's familiar with a lot of guys in those system, and it just seems like every guy that comes off the bench, every role guy, every guy that comes and fills a spot, you know, does exactly what they know that their value is to that team, and it's fun. You see, when the Yankees rolled in there, man, they put a lot of pressure on the Yankees, and the Yankees from the start, you know, they were kind of shaky defensively. You see certain guys trying to do certain things, pickoffs and field bunts, and it put a lot of pressure on those guys. So that can change the outing. You know, you look at a guy like we said, Garrett Crochet, and all of a sudden he's rolling, no one's hitting him. If he's now got to worry about these guys running, these guys, you know, playing small ball, bunting, hitting and running, that really changes the whole entire outing for him or his thought process, and it takes a lot of comfort away from him, and that's what Toronto does.
Eric, when I look at that Max Scherzer idea, I want you to be the spokesperson for this in Toronto here now. But you know what, man? I'm bringing up your numbers against Max Scherzer. 309 career batting average. That should be in the front of your T-shirt most days, leaving the house. That's all right. That's a good thing to hold on to.
He was a guy that I made sure I got a good night's sleep ahead of that, because he was a guy, you know, you had to be ready to go. And, you know, I do have a couple good things, a couple good results off him, but I was his 3,000th strikeout, which I was trying not to be that guy. And, of course, I landed right on that guy, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Hey, made history. But when you look at a guy like Scherzer, and the Blue Jays have tried this in recent years. They've brought in players like Brandon Bell to Justin Turner. Obviously, Scherzer's just a completely different level at this point. But when you think back to your younger years, coming up with the Royals and some of the veterans that you guys had around the clubhouse. And on this team, still lots of young players. What's that value actually feel like to you? We talk about it a lot. I talk about it a lot, but I don't think I actually know what that feels like and how that can make you better, make you more comfortable as a player. What's that happen?
It just simplifies it. I mean, we're playing a game. It's a game of failure that is so hard each and every night. And you just see all these guys come with this elite stuff, these defenders that are catching every ball. So it's like, man, how do I have success here? And one thing that really helped us in Kansas City, via some veteran presence of guys like Raul Ibanez, guys that have been around, was we as an offense, we just try to simplify our game plan. And the one thing was 2014 against John Lester in the wild card game. That's one thing I always go back to. It's because he hadn't had a pickoff attempt in like 3 years. So literally we're in this pregame meeting and we're saying, boys, if we can just get to first base, it then becomes a track meet. We got a lot of guys on our team that can steal bases. So then we're thinking of how well we're going to get 3-4 runs off of John Lester. It then simplifies that mental game, thought process, whatever you call it, to if we can just get to first base, we can then turn in some runs here. So that was kind of our little game within the game. And I think that's what the veteran presence can do. They can find any kind of tendencies, any kind of flaws, any kind of edge they can get on the other team, the opposing pitcher, and simplify a game that's already hard enough. And it's a game of failure, we all know.
Eric, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Eric Hosmer. The podcast is Digging Deep, former Major League Baseball player. He's joined us on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Drive the built-in Canada, fuel-efficient, fun to drive Toyota RAV4 gas or hybrid models available. Visit mapletoyota.com.
Scherzer in the closer role.
Wow.
Is an interesting...
so much for number 3.
Interesting thought process.
I think you need to give him the glamour of the closer role. I do not want to tell Max Scherzer you're coming in like middle relief.
No.
But picture, I always think of that highlight of Scherzer, and I think there's been a few of them, where he has his glove up to his mouth, but he appears to be cursing out the baseball. And it's just an image of someone who, if I walked into this workplace and did that, you'd be thinking, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well,
but when you're the best of the best.
We'd say, Guy, what's happening?
Yeah, come on, what's happening here? But when you're the best of the best, you can get away with that type of Mad Max behavior and crank him up in the 9th.
I like the concept, but as a guy who's followed Canadian Major League Baseball for a number of decades, the starting pitcher coming in for short work is kind of a scar tissue thing.
Yeah. That's baseball in the playoffs, man. That's baseball in the playoffs.
All aboard, man. Scherzer's done it a couple of times in his career. I think once with the Nationals, then once more recently. He's come out of the bullpen a couple times. That's one of my favorite things in baseball. I think of like Madison Bumgarner coming back on short rest or something. One of my very favorite things that can happen in the postseason is that old starter trying to come back on 2 or 3 days rest to throw an inning, throw 4 innings. So cool.
Well, that's one thing, but actually penciling him in as like your 9th inning guy, that's a completely whole.
You are hitching your wagon to something, and you better hope that works out.
So, I mean, like, how many options are we going to have if Hoffman doesn't work out there?
You will have Louis Varland. You'll have Sir Anthony Dominguez. You'll have Yariel Rodriguez, probably out of that group. And Yariel, I think, can do it. I think Yariel's a sneaky option, honestly. You might want to leave well enough alone because Yariel looks really comfortable in his role. But I think that, number one, the persona. Man, I like the scary, intimidating scowl of Yariel Rodriguez and those icy eyes looking down as the closer. It works, man. It works as a narrative. But you also have Varland, who is one of the better relievers in Major League Baseball and throws 100. And Dominguez has been great in the postseason. You have options. I'm always still a believer, though, guys, that a bullpen works best when you have a closer and everyone knows they're the closer. Closer by committee kind of means you don't have a closer.
Yeah.
And it means that one of those guys is not good enough or dominant enough to run with the job. It's like when you have 2 quarterbacks, no quarterbacks. Everything makes more sense when you have a closer.
He talked about Scherzer with Detroit. The Tigers on those teams had great starters, but no finish.
Exactly. And you need that. You absolutely need that because then if everyone knows that Jeff Hoffman's the closer and I'm Dominguez, I'm Varland, I know that I need to focus on just the 7th, just the 8th, and I can start looking at who's coming up, getting ready. It really matters to guys. I've seen it go the other way, and it does not work.
Well, and the other team likely has that guy, so big difference. Coming up next, Yes Guy, No Guy, followed by Bruce Garriock from the Ottawa Senators, post-media Senators columnist on the new land deal there for the new arena. So Yes Guy, No Guy next. OverDrive continues live on YouTube, TSN 1050, TSN 2.
Canada chases the ultimate prize in women's rugby.
Get you some of this.
Women's Rugby World Cup. Every match, every moment, only on TSN.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Overdrive today, Jim Taddy, Keegan Matheson from MLB.com, and El's brother Mike DiStefano. Time now for this.
Yes Guy, No Guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, drivers and passengers, time now for Yes Guy, No Guy on Overdrive, the radio and television show. Are you guys all set? First time for you.
I'm happy to be here. This is incredible.
First time for you.
I've dreamed of this moment.
Okay, sorry to hear that, but nonetheless, we'll start with you. Yes Guy, No Guy number one. Blue Jays will hit the 90 win mark this season, so they are at 69-50. They've got 43 games left. They'll hit the 90 win mark this season.
Yes Guy. Few days to spare. Big champagne celebration. I get soaked. Walk home smelling like alcohol for a different reason, but yes Guy. Firm yes Guy.
New suit. Do they pay for the cleaning?
Unfortunately not. That's okay. My clothes don't cost that much.
Okay.
100% yes Guy.
Yeah.
Like they would have to finish 20-23, so under 500 the rest of the way, in order to not hit the 90 win mark. If there's no way this team goes under 500 the rest of the way. I mean, they've proven to us that they're a very good ball club. In what way do you look at this team and think, yeah, they're probably going to sputter down the stretch? This is when you start to pick up win. You're in a divisional race. There's no shot that they can go under 500.
I think anything less than 90 would be a major disappointment.
100% it would be.
If their win total starts with an 8, that's a mess.
Yes.
Especially with Bieber coming back and the additions they've made. They are a fundamentally better baseball team now than they were 10 days ago. It's got to be over 90.
I mean, you're talking about 5 or 6 games over 500 anyway, right?
Yeah.
In the last 43?
They can pull that off, I think, easily.
Okay.
You only have to win 21 of the next 43 games to get there.
Yeah, that's no-brainer stuff.
It's better.
It's a bit of a tough, I'll say this, is a bit of a tough sked. I'm looking at it. The 8th hardest schedule down the stretch in baseball. Got the Brewers, the Cubs 3 times. You got the Astros, the Red Sox, the Yankees. So you do have some series against some serious ball clubs, but you still would have to think that this team at least goes 500 down the stretch.
Oh, yeah.
That'll blow through that number.
Absolutely. Yes Guy, No Guy number 2. Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro are both a lock to return to this team next season. Yes Guy, No Guy.
Yes Guy.
Oh,
I've covered a lot of seasons where I've said this has got to be the year it falls apart, and it hasn't.
Well, it should have.
If they've made it through to now, like what?
Precisely.
How could they possibly be on the outs at this point? They finally are reaping the benefits of the process, of the plan, right? Like this is what they have been talking about, the internal improvement. How many press conferences in the last 3 years have you done where they talked about how they like the team? Internal improvement. Every guy they get, they talk about the control of those players. Well, that's all finally starting to come to fruition now, and the plan is starting to yield results. There is a 0% chance that this duo does not return next year.
So I looked at it as the duo. I mean, there is some talk that maybe the structure doesn't want a separate president for the baseball team. I don't know how that stuff moves forward, but I'm going to say, yes, Guy, they're both back. And I'm going to base it on their patience and their player development.
Yeah,
I think that's important
at this point. And I view them very differently. Mark Shapiro, a lot of what he does is business side.
Right.
There's still a lot to go on that plan. Like they're still not done with.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be hearing
and all
sometime soon. I'm not exactly sure, but there's more to come. Like they're not done renovating the dome.
Right.
And when I look at Mark Shapiro, when we say ownership, I kind of look at Mark Shapiro in that direction, the president who interacts with ownership.
Yeah.
And their job is to handle the business side and to convince ownership to give the baseball people money to win games. And I think he's nailing that.
Well, what part of that isn't working?
Exactly. The Blue Jays have
Literally.
higher payrolls than they've had in a very long time. They're winning. The stadium looks awfully pretty. So I think that what he's doing right now, the people involved in ownership and with the organization are really happy with.
And there's a farm system on top of all of that.
Back. Now, when I look at Ross Atkins and his job, I look more specifically towards the baseball. I don't care about the bars and the lounges and the patios. It's all baseball.
Yeah.
And that's working this year. We have had year after year, and I've been at all of them, these press conferences, where Ross Atkins is asked directly, do you think you should have this job next year? Which has got to suck. That's got to suck to sit up on that podium and be looking down.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you. So I do think I should be employed. Thank you. Yeah. But he's been asked that question for a reason, and it's happened multiple times. Year after year, and I said it again this spring when we talking to the guys on OverDrive saying, this is the year it's got to happen. And if the Blue Jays again this year go 78 and 84, I'm covering all new people next year. New GM, probably a new manager, a lot of a new roster, maybe a new president.
Yeah.
Now it looks like a lot of it will stay the same. I don't know if bigger, grander things will tempt Mark Shapiro. There are not many bigger or grander things than this in this market, this country. But I think everybody's back if they want to be back, and they've earned it at this point.
Well, they said it was going to be 2025, and it is.
Yeah. Feels like something that feels like an April yes guy, no guy.
Yeah. I'm just reading them. Normally I create my own, but in this particular case on this show, I read what's handed to me. Yes guy, no guy number 3, Shane Bieber will record more than one win. And I didn't write this, but the producer Doogie did on the mound.
Oh, yes guy.
Yeah.
Yes guy. Yeah. He's expected, so he's got one more minor league start, goes to AAA. If all goes well, he should be back within, the 10 days? He should be back.
Yeah, likely on that road trip coming up. So I think he gets 5, maybe even 6 starts down the stretch.
You got 5, 6 starts. Can he get one win?
Absolutely.
Yes, guy. 100%. You better hope so.
Yeah, the story would be if he didn't.
Big yes guy. I think he gives the Blue Jays a couple. And when you're looking down the stretch, some tough teams, sure, but this is Shane Bieber. Yeah. And this is a winning baseball team. By default, he's an above-average pitcher, and the Blue Jays are winning an above-average amount of games. I think he gives them a real strong stretch run here, and he's just about back to normal. His pitch count is all the way up there. He looks exactly like himself. Not all Tommy John recoveries are like that. We see that with Alec Manoah right now. He's getting kind of the same point Shane Bieber's at, but it's not quite as encouraging. Bieber is nailing this. He's right where he needs to be. I think he blows that.
Wow, so 3 yes guy, no guys, all resounding.
It's a positive
and yes guy. I mean, forget about the no guy. Maybe we have it here. Speaking of Alec Manoah, yes guy, no guy. Manoah would be a fit in the bullpen once he returns to the lineup.
No guy. Hard no guy. He's a starter.
Yeah.
And when I look through the Blue Jays rotation, there's lots of guys who are just starters. I say that even about Jose Berrios. He's a very talented pitcher. Sure, he could make it work as a reliever. But he is built and designed and thinks like a starter. Right now in the minor leagues, Alec Manoah building back up, he already was not a velocity monster. Yeah. He wasn't a missing bats guy.
It's crazy considering his size. It looks like he should be.
Exactly. You always think it's going to be the big guys. And then you see Yusei Kikuchi, who's so small, not big built, and he's throwing 97. It never makes sense, the torque of the body. But Manoah, no. At this point, it's got to work out as a starter. I think I'm writing about him competing for the number 5 job next spring. Does he have an inside track on it? I'm not sure. It's been a few years since he was like Alec Manoah. It's been a few years.
Oh, yeah.
And in a bullpen, I don't think there's any role there.
You want a guy who can throw strikes in your bullpen. Manoah's been struggling to do that now for a couple of years, ultimately. And that's where I look at him, and I don't see him as a fit in this bullpen, especially if we're talking about this season. No chance. That's a no guy for me. You have a bullpen you like, but you would have to get really, really in the weeds in terms of injury to even think about Manoah being part of your bullpen this year.
Yeah, so it's a unanimous no guy. I mean, that's the ultimate pressure spot for him, and I just don't see it.
All about next year for him.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, yes guy, no guy, the Yankees, I don't know if I've ever said this, the Yankees will not win one playoff series this year.
Yes guy, meaning they will not win.
That's right.
A playoff series this year. I don't think they're built for it. I think they're a bit top heavy. I think they're leaning on Aaron Judge for just about everything, and their power goes well beyond Judge. They get more power from this roster than I think people talk about. But at this time of year, I want to see a team that has some momentum and some moxie and a good feeling around them. The Yankees are 0-3 on that.
I'm going to say yes guy. I'm going to go, no, it will not win one. I'm going to say no guy. I believe they'll win a series.
Improperly worded.
Yeah, I believe they will win a series. Yes guy.
Okay.
I can see the Yankees doing it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we need to find out who they're playing, realistically. But I think there are multiple teams that are in the AL race right now that they could conceivably play in a wild card or an ALDS that I believe they could win. I think that it's possible. They got some if they can get Louis Heel to get back to pitching the way that he was a year ago, that'll go a long way, right? Garrett Cole going to be back by...
Haven't heard an update there in a long time.
Yeah, haven't heard
probably
an update.
Not a good thing.
So probably not Garrett Cole.
They've really missed him.
Yeah, absolutely they have. But if you can get Louis Heel back, you get Aaron Judge, if that elbow can, satisfy, I suppose, I for sure think this is a team that can still win a round.
Going to squeeze one more in before we break and do the Ottawa Senators story. Jeff Hoffman needs to be the team's closer in the playoffs.
Yes, Guy. He's got to be. Signed for it, needs to be it. And when he is, let's compare everybody's best. The best version of Hoffman, Dominguez, Varland, Rodriguez, I want Hoffman.
Yes, I guess that's if you're looking at the best, but are you getting his best? That's my big question.
Maybe, only maybe.
I'm gonna look at the word needs. Does he need to be this team's closing the playoff? No, they need to go with the guy who's pitching the best at that moment. And if it's not Jeff Hoffman, that's not my closer. It's not the guy I'm calling on the 9th inning.
I'm gonna go yes, guy. He has to be.
Even if he
has to be the
serving
guy.
up home runs.
Well, hopefully straightens that out, but he's got to be the guy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're entering the bag of tricks.
And John Schneider's going to trust him to be. I mean, I had to ask John Schneider a ton of questions about why is Jeff Hoffman giving up 1 million home runs.
Yeah,
and it was a strange thing that played out.
He first percentile on barrel rates this year.
Rocked for a while there. Those 7 or 8 home runs in a real tight cluster.
So let me rephrase. Is this the biggest question mark for you?
Yes, it is, because I think the offense is what it is. The rotation is good. The defense is rock solid. But you got to look for squeaky wheels, and you got to get really picky to do it when you're at this level, and this could be one of those. A couple more outings that are back to who he was, fantastic. Boom, you're happy. Yeah. But you got to worry when you see those 5 walks.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave that. Coming up next, Bruce Garriock will be with us. Post-media Senators columnist. The Ottawa Senators have their land deal. The new rink is on the way as OverDrive continues on TSN2, TSN 1050, and live on YouTube.
back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Overdrive continues. Jim Taddy, Keegan Matheson, MLB.com, and El's brother. Overdrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. And the headline is Senators sign an agreement of purchase for the arena project at LeBreton Flats. Long time in coming, but it's here. Bruce Garriock is with us from Post Media Sen's columnist. Bruce, welcome. Your thoughts on that headline?
Well, I think if you ask anybody in Ottawa, Jim, they tell you it's about time, right?
Yeah.
This has been going on. It feels like for a lifetime, but the first time the Senators made a real bid on LeBreton was in 2014. And since then, there have been stops, there have been starts, and a lot of false starts. But I feel like this time there is finally momentum to make an agreement. One of the things that happened last I think it was in April, the NCC said they hope to have an agreement by the end of 2025. I don't think that made anybody happy, that they felt that they could drag their feet till the end of 2025. And there really was haggling over what was fair market value. But I think a third-party assessment made everybody agree on the fair market value of this land, which I've reported is just north of $30 million. And once that hurdle was completed, I think they were finally able to get to the point where, the dream now looks like it could be a reality. And for people in Ottawa, this is a very major step because while LeBreton Flats is in downtown, it's 2 kilometers from downtown. It has 2 stops on the light rail transit. And, I think that this is something, it gives them better proximity to the fans in Gatineau. I think this is something that the city and the region wants.
Well, Bruce, what's the timeline for a project like this? How long before Sens fans will actually get to watch the Senators playing in the LeBreton Flats arena?
The timeline is I will be retired by the time this arena is built. That much I can guarantee you. I think you're probably looking at anywhere from 5 to 6 years. I think that the reality is there has to be cleanup on that land. It is contaminated. The land needs to be remediated. That is, I am told that process can take anywhere from a year to 18 months to clean that up. And then you're at the point where you can get shovels in the ground. But there's not only, I think you have to look at the timeline. I think they could probably build the arena itself in 2 years, but it's when are they going to get shovels in the ground? And obviously, so I think that's why they're making upgrades to the Canadian Tire Center right now, because they know they're going to be there for another 5 years. The Canadian Tire Center will celebrate its 30th anniversary in January of 2026. And my guess would be that if you put me on the spot right now, my guess would be that opening night at the new arena would probably be in 2031 or 2032.
So the obvious question is, what happens to the Canadian Tire Center? I was recently in Calgary, and the Saddledome, when it was built, was state-of-the-art, and it's on the way out. I mean, these things just don't last that long, do they?
No, and like I said, it'll be 35, 36 years old then. I mean, that's the question. I mean, do they? I know that Eugene Melnick had some plans for it. I think his thinking was maybe it could be turned into a casino with a hotel. I don't know where Andlauer's head is at on that front, but that's a fairly valuable piece of real estate, and it's sitting on. Think about it. They bought 11 acres at LeBreton Flats today. Right now, they currently have 75 acres that surrounds their arena, right? And so that's going to be a very, very valuable piece of real estate when they put it up for sale. And I don't know what they get per acre. I'm not in the real estate business, but I think that they get a pretty penny if they decided to just take it down. I do think that there's a new casino in kind of the south end of the city. the Hard Rock is. I could totally see a situation where that's turned into some kind of casino with a hotel to maybe make it. One of the things they talked about is maybe making it some kind of destination for people in the West End.
Bruce, as you look at this news coming today, I mean, I cannot imagine the number of bylines and the number of words you have written about this over the years as it's coming. Now that you're talking to people, especially on the team side, what do you sense from a lot of the folks involved? I'd assume there has to be an incredible amount of relief at this point, but what are those feelings you're getting from people involved here?
Well, I mean, Bruce Firestone, Cyril Leader's been there since the beginning, and Bruce Firestone went to the NCC in 1990 when the Senators were awarded a franchise, and he wanted to build his rink at LeBreton Flats, and he was told in no uncertain terms by the late head of the NCC, then Gene Piggott, that there was no chance. And, really since 2013, 14, they've been chasing this. And I think that while they looked at other options, every time they looked at LeBreton Flats, they felt like, was this the place they should be? My sense would be they feel relief, right? They feel relief that they're able to get this agreement in place. Michael Andlauer has a number of partners in his ownership group who are developers, not the least of which is the Malhotra family of Clare Ridge Homes, and Paul and Michael Paletta of All Anita Holdings, who are Burlington-based, who've done a lot of development in that area. And I think those will be the people who help lead this project. Mike Landlauer has been pretty frank with me about the fact that I'm not a developer. I'm a business person. I own a healthcare company, and the idea that he wanted the experts on this, and I think that's why it got across the finish line the first time because of the Malhotra family, the leadership of the Malhotra family, and the input from the people at Alenia Holdings. And I think that this time people here feel pretty confident that this is going to happen.
Chris, just a couple of minutes left. We'll squeeze this one in. Brady Tkachuk, I mean, these trade rumor talks, or I guess just leave them at rumors, are not quite as long as the search for land for a new arena, but they've been around for a number of years, and he obviously put some water on that fire. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that Brady Tkachuk is committed to the city of Ottawa, and the city of Ottawa certainly loves him. I look at Tkachuk and I say, I think it was important for them to make the playoffs last year. I think some frustration would have grown in that camp, but obviously now, and I think that Tkachuk has always wanted to do it here. He's very tight with Thomas Chabot and Tim Stützle, and he was obviously very tight with Josh Norris before he got traded. But I think, Tkachuk wants to get this done here. He really, I spoke to him at the end of the season. He really felt like they had just made one step. Now they want to make the next step. But for that to happen for them next season, Jim, the growth is going to have to come from within. And because I think the teams around them have improved, and I think everybody's looking at the Florida Panthers right now and saying, can we be as good as the Florida Panthers? And I think that Ottawa and Toronto in that department have their work cut out for them.
Bruce, appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Good to talk to you guys. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bruce Garriock, Post Media Sens columnist. The LeBreton Flats land, you always wonder, in retrospective analysis, what else was going to go there. I mean, it's an obvious fit for the hockey team.
Yeah, it's bizarre it took so long for this to actually get to the finish line, realistically. Like, this has been talked about for years, ad nauseum. It sounded like there was a deal in place, prior, and then it kind of got buried at one point, and luckily cooler heads prevailed, and this got to the finish line. And this is a big thing for Michael Andlauer. Like, for him to kind of put his really putting his stamp on this organization, his spot in the NHL. It's like, hey, I finally got this done for Ottawa, and let's see what we can do now that we're in the meat of the city, right in the heart of the city, as opposed to out 40 minutes in Canada, where it takes literally 45 minutes to get out to to the game. Like that was a big problem for a lot of people.
$30 million, just slightly less than $3 million an acre in downtown. So the 75 acres where the Canadian Tire Center sits is probably somewhere around 2. So that's $150 million.
Oh, not a bad day.
No, not
But the LeBreton Flats were starting to sound like this mythical land that did not really exist over the years.
That's right.
Now I'm interested to see what else they put there. It's not going to be, the size of an NFL complex, but every new stadium that goes in now, you're trying to have the infrastructure around it, the businesses, the food, the hotels, and not just a stadium, and that gets exciting.
A little community.
Coming up in hour number 3, Mark Ross, NFL Network analyst, will be by at 6:30. And coming up very shortly, our good friend Richard Griffin will stop by, griffsthepitch.com. You sat real close to him in the press box on a regular basis.
Yeah, poor Griff is about from me to AB away from me in the press box today. So today will be a little more professional. Normally I'm swearing a lot. I'm complaining about the heat. Today I'll keep it a little tighter.
That is next.
OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Hour number 3, OverDrive on a sizzling Monday. Jim Taddy, Keegan Matheson from the MLB.com group, or just say MLB.com. Al's brother, Mike DeStefano, getting a little punchy. Sorry, OverDrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Coming up in mere seconds, Richard Griffin, griffsthepitch.com is where you can find his work, or the Exit Philosophy podcast. In the meantime...
Yes guy, no guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, bonus yes guy, no guy, if you could call it that. So here's some stuff we didn't get to. Going to the CFL, the Argos would have been a winning team if Chad Kelly was at quarterback. Would be a winning team if Chad Kelly had started the season at quarterback.
No guy. That's a lot of wins to make up at this point, especially with how they look right now. You'd have another win or two, but I'm a no guy on that.
Well, winning club as in like just over 500 or...
Yes.
I mean, I'm going to say, I say no guy, but it's not necessarily Chad Kelly. That defense is just horrendous.
A lot of losses.
They lost half their defense, half the starters that played in that championship game, and they have not really been able to make it up. And they're giving up points they got 48 points this weekend. 48 points. They gave up a 50 burger to Hamilton a few weeks back. Like, this defense is horrendous. Don't matter who's under center. I still think that this team is going to lose a lot of football games.
Well, they were the masters of complimentary football last year, and now it's the reverse. So 46-42 was the score Saturday. They're the reverse of that now. What they used to generate offensively on special teams, they're giving away. That's a major contrast.
Hard to overcome. Maybe give me a 4-5 with Kelly, but not a winning.
Yeah, so I'm going to go no guy. Yes guy, no guy, supplemental. The Bills will finish with the best record in the AFC this season, maybe?
In the AFC, I'm going to say yes guy. Definitely an easier division than like the two teams that I think you're looking at. I suppose you could throw the Chiefs in there as a possibility. I don't want to, but it's between the Bills and the Ravens for me. But the Ravens have a far more difficult path to garnering the most wins in the AFC, right? You look at their division. It's difficult, very difficult. So I like the Buffalo Bills. I think they finished with the best record this year. I think they're the only team in the NFL this year to be favored on by the sports books, by FanDuel, in every single game this season.
Really?
Yeah.
Every single game.
I'm a yes guy, but I like the Chiefs more than most. And I think Chiefs exhaustion has set in.
People get fed up
over
with
the
excellence.
years. You get tired of it. But I still see the Chiefs as a team that's going to make a massive run. 15-2 a year ago. I think they'll be close this year. And I think this year is a year where they really, really open up Patrick Mahomes again and open up that passing game again. How many games Rice is going to miss, we'll see. That'll be a big one, but I think they feed Kelsey in his absence. I'm a big Xavier Worthy guy. I think that will help as well. Hollywood Brown back will help. I think they just completely uncork Patrick Mahomes again. Not quite back to those peak records he's setting. But, man, they've got to give the Bills a run for their money. Give me Bills 1, Chiefs 2, Ravens 3.
Oh, I'm going to say yes guy to this. They will have the best record in the AFC this season, and I hope it works out finally. Another dragon that has to be slayed. Let's go out on this one. Shadur Sanders will be the Week 1 quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
No guy. Give me Joe Flacco Week 1. Somewhere in the middle, a little bit of Kenny Pickett at the end of the season. We're talking week 11, 12, 13.
I don't need to see no baby hands.
Just
Pickett.
a little sprinkle of Kenny Pickett.
No baby hands, Kenny Pickett anywhere near the Cleveland starting quarterback.
Only because they traded for him.
But
just that little wink at the camera.
Why would you? You got
One
Dylan
more.
Gabriel. You've got Shadur Sanders.
Gabriel's the forgotten man.
He is, and he's hurt right now, and that's the I'm gonna say no guy as well for week 1. I do think Shadur Sanders becomes the starter at some point and will get started to the Cleveland Browns. He looked pretty good on Friday. I'll give him that. Let's give him his flowers, right? Tony didn't want to give flowers, but let's give flowers to Shadur Sanders. Not that he looked pretty good. But week 1, I don't think they're ready to give him the keys to the kingdom just yet, but at some point this year, I do think that Sanders will be starting games for the Browns.
It is the Cleveland Browns, so I'm going to say yes, he will be the Week 1 quarterback because they like to do things their way.
They do.
Yes, they do. Let's bring in Richard Griffin now. As mentioned, griffsthepitch.com and the Exit Philosophy podcast, highly anticipated and highly advertised. Griff, how are you?
I'm doing well, and it's great to talk to Keegan and not be looking at him.
Come on, don't pretend you haven't had the TV up like you missed me, Griff. It's good to hear your voice, though, and it's been a whole week.
So without him, I would be completely wrong.
Well, we were going to put some popcorn in his beard just to make it look official, but he wouldn't have any part of that.
This is about as clean as I get, Taddy. All this TV stuff is making me a little cleaner than I normally look.
Rich, we've been talking a lot about the game last night there, and the decision, I guess, to put Mason Fluharty out there. Like, what went through your mind in that situation when you saw Fluharty trotting out there, game on the line, Ohtani in the batter's box? Walk us through what went through your brain there.
Well, it's always, as a manager, it's always up to who you think is the best option at that point in time. It doesn't matter how many pitches have been thrown. It's who's the best option. And at that point, having thrown 23 balls and 10 strikes, the best option at that point was Mason Fluharty, lefty against against the best player in baseball. But I wasn't expecting much. I wasn't expecting that. And it would have been a completely different story because on a 3-2 count, Ohtani, of course, was being aggressive. He wanted to win the ball game. He is the best player in baseball. And he swung at a pitch down and away. And if he had taken that pitch, it would have been ball 4. The game would have been tied again, and it would have been a whole different ball game, and people would have been complaining about the move and about Mason Fluharty being in that spot.
Griff, that's another one of those moves that just seems to have worked out for the Jays. John Schneider, it seems like, has had a lot of those. Last year, the year before, if he'd make that move, I'd bet Shohei Ohtani would hit one 500 feet. But it seems like everything they do lately is working out. And Griff, you've covered a couple more years of baseball and a couple more managers than me, I believe, when I do the math. And being around John Schneider as much as you have you noticed, like I have, kind of some change and growth in Schneider this year? And what stood out about you and his role in this success?
Yeah, I've actually, I counted it up, and I've worked with or covered 19 Major League managers. And like I told Gibby one time, you're not the worst I've ever covered, and you're not the best. And that's about what I can say for Schneider. But I think I heard you earlier talking about his growth as a manager and his ability to combine all the analytics and all the suggestions from the front office with instinct and a personal feel. And I think that's where he's improved the most. When you see a guy out there like your closer out there and he's not throwing strikes, the numbers may say leave him in because he may find the strike zone at any time, but the new John Schneider says, I'm going out there, I'm going to take him out and let the chips fall where they may. He has developed since the debacle in Minnesota with Jose Barrios, there's no doubt. I think that was the starting point where for his renaissance into what he's become. I think definitely he's top 3 in Manager of the Year. And you guys suggest number 1. I think if the Jays hang on and are the best team in the American League or win the division, then he would win that award.
So you're talking about him being more decisive, but one of the intriguing things for me, and I'd like your take on it, is this roster has more flexibility than I've seen in a long time, and he's able to guide it properly.
Well, the flexibility that you're talking about, Tatman, is the fact that in the past their bench has been so terrible that, you could have guys that are able to play different positions, but you don't want them in any game at any time. And this bench is deeper. This bench has more talent. Miles Straw was a revelation. Nathan Lucas is a revelation. And they have guys that are able to fill in and play different positions, which means late in the game they can make John Schneider look like a genius with his manipulation of positions and stuff. And I think, by and large, this is the best bench he's ever had. This is the best bench I can remember in years. And it's because they're spending a lot of money. They have $75.6 million on the IL right now. And there are some years, even in the 21st century, where that is more than what the payroll was for the Blue Jays. So they are spending more money. They have more players. They have more versatility. And I'm sure it's a lot more fun in that dugout for John Schneider to manage.
There's a lot of guys who are performing, as you noticed, and as you mentioned here. And there's a couple of players, Jimenez, Springer, possibly Santander, some guys who are going to come up pretty soon, and there's going to have to be some sort of roster crunch. Like, how difficult is that decision going to be for who gets kind of squeezed out of this lineup?
Well, I think it would have been, Michael, I think it would have been more difficult prior to the Dodgers series. I think there was a certain euphoria going into Chavez Ravine that disappeared in a hurry after 2 games. And Keegan mentioned it earlier, the fact that these guys could push Yamamoto back and still come in with a guy, Tyler Glasnow, who's an all-star and should have won a Cy Young by now if he wasn't injured all the time. But I think that really this team in L.A. proved something to both sides, those who were overly optimistic and those who were overly pessimistic. It was a necessary 2 out of 3 loss, and I think that the negative side now realizes that you can't just go with the guys that are there now. Anytime you have Buddy Kennedy starting against the World Series champions at third base, then you know you got to make some moves, and those are coming up. It won't be that hard. Things have a tendency to take care of themselves, and especially on the pitching side. I mean, you guys mentioned Trey Savage earlier. I compare that to David Price in his rookie year of 2008 when the Tampa Bay Rays went to the World Series, and he was called up late in the season, had made his way through their minor league system, and was a key part of the bullpen, pitching innings in the playoffs, and ended up being a really good starter in the major leagues. But that was his debut in the majors, is in a role with a winning team, and maybe Savage could be that guy in September and October.
Griff, I like that, the David Price example that you're mentioning. And in Toronto, I try to think back, I guess 2014, Aaron Sanchez, but he was on a pitch inning limit when he debuted in the bullpen late that year, moved into the rotation. What do you think, Griff, down the stretch here, Trey Savage? He's had an incredible year in the minor leagues, just about as good as any pitcher in this whole organization. And I said earlier that it comes down to whether he is one of the 13 best pitchers on this team.
I think that,
do you think he is?
I think that they have to go to a 6-man rotation.
Yep.
I think that Jose Barrios is a key, and when I ran it by him, he had a big smile. I said, you'd get to your 32 starts, which he's done, of course, for 6 consecutive years. And when he heard that, his face lit up. He says, that extra rest is always good in the final 2 months. And so I think that the key to Savage coming up is you need a guy. You could have Eric Lauer go into that role and be a 2 or 3 inning guy down the stretch in September. But you want a guy, you want that 6-man rotation to me, because you're rewarding your 6 best pitchers and you're leaving them some innings to go into October, because October is the ultimate goal, of course. And like Savage could be that guy who, when you get down near the end of a game, if you're going to extra innings, you have him ready to go, and he can eat up multiple innings. Plus, he could pitch 3 middle innings, like Lauer came out after 3 on Sunday. He could then eat up 2 or 3 innings and be really overpowering, really good in a short burst. And I think that the way Savage would come up is as that extra pitcher in September that they're allowed to add when the rosters expand, and if the team is going with a 6-man rotation.
Griff, an hour ago, Eric Hosmer stopped by and suggested that Scherzer do some short work. Where are you on what his role would be?
I think Scherzer deserves the respect. I think within that clubhouse, if you take Scherzer or Shane Bieber out of a starting role, you might lose a couple of people in that clubhouse. I think that those guys need to be in the rotation. And as Keegan pointed out earlier, it's important to have a left-hander, and that would be Eric Lauer. So I think they're headed in the right direction. And, you know, you look at that Dodger series, and I talk about the importance of the Dodger series to what they're trying to do. I think you see Chris Bassett, you see Eric Lauer, and these guys always are going to say, just give me the ball every 5 days, when in fact they're better off doing it every 6 days. And I've done a mock-up of the final 43 games, and there's 28 of the 37 games, if you go to a six-man, that are going to be on the 6th day exactly, and others that there might be a few a little longer than that, but due to off days. But that's a welcome feeling for those guys who have gone through 30-some starts and, close to 200 innings.
Griff, I knew you'd have it mapped out. You've always been my six-man rotation guy. I knew you had that math done already.
Yeah, I said it to Pete and to John Schneider already. And usually when I send it to them, I hear back right away with some sarcastic comment. There's been silence this time, so I may have nailed it.
You know what? I've heard a couple of those comments over the years, so this might be the year. And that'll be one of the opening scenes. We'll have the text of your message to Pete and Schneids open in the start of the World Series documentary there. I love it.
Oh, I thought they were already making a movie out of your book.
I think I kept the movie rights. But Griff, when you talk about and I agree with you, the Scherzer factor along with Bassett, you're risking or you're at least dealing with a clubhouse there. And we were talking to Hosmer about that as well, the value of the clubhouse. And I always say, Griff, that most years when I'm told about a good clubhouse or a great tight-knit group, a lot of the time it's fluff. And we hear about it a lot every spring training. I feel like this group is the best one that I've been around in my 9 or 10 years. I'm curious what your experience is around with them. And I read what you wrote on gripsthepitch.com about the comparison, I think, to the 94 Expos you had with them as well. Interested to hear about your impressions and that comparison that you made.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times it's a mistake in terms of which came first, winning or the chemistry in the clubhouse. And even at the start of this year, the chemistry in the Blue Jays clubhouse wasn't what it is now or what it has developed into. And in terms of the 94 Expos, which is, of course, today is the day that the strike hit in 1994. I remember being in the Pittsburgh clubhouse, in the Pirates clubhouse, and they were giving a talk about how stay ready because this is going to be a short strike. We're coming back. We're going to win the World Series. That was Felipe Alou and Kevin Malone, the GM, and the rest is history. It didn't happen. But that clubhouse, because everyone contributed, it was a bunch of young guys, and none of them were the leader on the field, but they were all leaders in the clubhouse. And that feeling is what I felt was being replicated in this clubhouse. And it's good to see. It's great to see. It's great in that clubhouse. But Eric Hosmer, to me, was the heart and soul of that Kansas City clubhouse. I remember covering the 2014 and 2015 World Series. 2014, after they lost, in the lobby of the hotel up on the hill in Kansas City, he put together a group of 7 or 8 of his teammates, and they went out downtown for a couple of beers at the end of it, and then, of course, they won the next year. So I think that he was the leader of that clubhouse, so he knows what he's talking about, and I've always admired him for that. He was my favorite player in that clubhouse, and I think that this one has the same feel as that and the 94 Expos.
Griff, we're 11 days removed from the MLB trade deadline. What are your early impressions on the acquisitions of Varland, Ty France, and Sir Anthony Dominguez to this point?
Well, you look at, and a lot of the bullpen acquisitions, you look at the Yankees, and they had those 4 guys that were all listed as closers. They went in and coughed up 9 runs in 3 1/3 innings or something. So, it doesn't always work out right away. The guy I'm worried about is Sir Anthony Dominguez. I think that Louis Varland can be the setup guy if Jimmy Garcia doesn't come back. Concerned about the strike throwing of Brendan Little, the strike throwing of Yariel Rodriguez. There's a lot of work to be done in that bullpen, but they've added a couple of key players to that. And, of course, Shane Bieber could turn out to be the wild card. You play roulette over blackjack because the return is so much bigger if you win. And so Shane Bieber is like roulette. They can win big or lose quickly, and we'll only see in October.
So let's get to Hoffman. I don't want to swerve here. Just what are your thoughts on Hoffman And how do you think this plays out?
Well, you got to stick with your closer. You're paying him for three years. He's had mostly great outings. This was an unbelievably bad outing. I don't know how anyone in history could reason that you get 2 outs, walk 5 guys, and don't give up any runs. I mean, that's virtually impossible mathematically. And then he had a blown save and a win. And like, you're going, holy mackerel, this is the closer that's got to lead them. And if he's out of gas, they're in trouble because there's really no one else to step up and do that. He's had some incredible performances. He's a gamer. He wants to go more than 1 inning, and that's very rare in this day and age. I think they stick with him. I think that was a blip. I think what they need to do is have him throw the day before an off day so that he's not on 6 days rest like he was this time. And I looked it up, and on 4 days or more of rest, his record in the last month has been terrible. So that's what you need to do. Make sure he's getting regular work. And if it's before an off day, make sure he pitches an inning.
Just going to slide a stat in before Keegan asks you the next question. Jeff Hoffman, first pitcher since 1901 to surrender at least 5 walks in less than an inning of work and get credited with a victory, with a win.
Keegan, I didn't see that one.
Amazing. Amazing. Griff, when you look at down the stretch here, Jeff Hoffman has thrown a ton of appearances here. He's up towards the top of the league, and Louis Varland's up near the top of the league. I think only 4 relievers have made more appearances than him, but there's going to come a day in September where the Blue Jays need a different closer, another closer when Hoffman's gassed. Who do you like in that spot? Is it Varland? Do you like Yariel Rodriguez in that spot? Where do you go if you are the skipper coming out of the dugout?
Hey, Keeg, I was with the team, the Expos, where Mike Marshall threw 108 games and 208 innings in relief.
See, Griff, I'm young and soft, though. You know, it's gone soft.
But asking that question, by the time you get to the playoffs, if it's not Hoffman, I go with Louis Varland or Trey Savage because of the dynamic stuff that he is purported to have. I know you saw him at spring training, but he's only gotten better, and I think that would be a difference maker going to the postseason or in the postseason.
The Savage idea I love. I mean, he's such a wild card for this team, but the upside when you compare him, because you're not comparing him to Hoffman yet, you're comparing him to whoever the middle reliever is that you'd be replacing. And I think the upside of Savage, and I'm coming around on the idea, I don't know if I'm all the way there, but the upside is just incredible.
Yeah, the other thing about the 6-man rotation is who do you want to hand the ball to, the 6th starter or the 8th reliever? You know, if you cut down to 7 relievers, you still want that 6th starter. You had 7 pitchers in the game, in the Dodgers game on Sunday. So, I mean, you really very rarely need that many pitchers. And the rest and the spreading out of the starting rotation will give you more innings than your 8th reliever is going to throw. So I think there's no downside to expanding the rotation, and there's no downside to rolling the dice with a guy like Savage.
Griff, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys, anytime. See you tomorrow, Keeg.
All right, Griff.
Richard Griffin, griffsthepitch.com, Exit Philosophy Podcast. So 31 years ago today, the strike, which made such a mess that they went to lockouts to prevent strikes so that halfway through the season or 3/4 of the season wouldn't be trashed. And the Expo story in that particular case was not good. Pretty well finished the franchise. And that was followed by a hockey lockout months later. Well, not months later, a month later. So when you're in the highlight business, as one of us was.
Supposed to ask what that was like.
Not a lot going on those days.
No, that was one of those things where you go, yeah, life's not going to be the same after this. And it really wasn't. It was a landscape changer.
What got wedged into the shows back then to fill it? Were you a lot of dog shows? What are we doing here? What filled the hours?
Well, we didn't have any NBA because the season hadn't started. So we had some CFL, NFL preseason game. You know, that was our lead. It was
deep
tough.
Coverage of the NFL preseason.
It was tough. Then to make it worse, I was doing mid-morning radio at the same time as that. So it was a long day. I had a show 10 to 12 with Steve Simmons on another network. And the late John Cerruti was our Major League Baseball analyst, and I plugged him into my late show and realized that the conversation wasn't much different 12 hours later. And that was, I mean, you want to talk about paint drying when you're in the highlight business and there aren't any. That was tough.
Yeah. So you just throw to your best. Any updates? Nope.
Nope.
All right, we're good.
I can just ask you again. Any more updates? There's only so many times you could ask that in a half hour. But
yeah, really.
Nonetheless, coming up next, we're going to talk football with the NFL preseason rounding into shape. And, of course, injuries starting to mount up as well. Mark Ross, NFL Network analyst, will join us and you on OverDrive live on YouTube, TSN 1050, TSN 2.
Don't sweat the technique.
OverDrive, Jim Taddy, Keegan Matheson, MLB.com, and Al's brother, Mike DiStefano. We're going to talk about the NFL with Mark Ross very shortly. We were talking about Sanders being the number one quarterback, or maybe eventually for the Browns. Adam Schefter has him, according to the Browns, rated as number 4 on their list. But far be it from the Browns to follow common sense.
For now.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Mark Ross, NFL Network analyst. Mark, welcome. How are you today?
Oh, great. How you guys?
Very good. So we're speculating. Obviously, it's very early in the preseason. One of our questions we had that we kicked around earlier was, could the Bills finish with the best win total in the AFC? Where are you on that?
Well, they'll be in the mix. I mean, to me, it's the big three. I haven't broken down the schedules in detail just yet, but of course, it's Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City. So, I mean, between the three of those, I think one of those will represent the AFC once again. There'll be other teams fighting forward and in the mix, but those three, if I had to say. So definitely will be a part of it. It'll just come down to, the matchups and, injuries and things like that, but they'll definitely be in the mix.
Well, there's obviously a whole other situation going on in Buffalo right now with James Cook. What did you make of the situation where he dressed for the preseason game against the Giants but refused to play when called upon the team? Like, does that reflect poorly upon him, or is that just business? What do you make of this whole thing?
Yeah, I've been around players long enough that who've been a part of holdouts, and one thing, other players never hold it against them. So, because they never know when it's their turn and when it's their situation, and you never count another man's money. And, I think for a teammate's point of view, they'll say, okay, whenever he's here, we're going to embrace him, or whenever he plays, he is there. Coaches, same thing, where the coaches are going to support him and not let it get contentious. And front office, they have to do business, and they have their side of it. They have their way of doing business, and James has his. And I think when it's all settled, there'll be no hard feelings. It won't linger into whenever it's done to the season or have any ill effects on how the Bills perform.
Mark, when you look bigger picture at the Bills this year, obviously a lot of Bills interest up here in Toronto. They have been close and good for a long time now, it feels like. What do you think is that last step for them? I know the AFC is stacked, but what is that one thing you think can help put them over the hump and get them back to the Super Bowl?
Well, it's the one thing is a one play. And if you look at the Bills the last few years, it's one play. And that's generally when you come down to big games and big moments. And I've been a part of those, winning 2 Super Bowls and having a lot of success. And, what separates them from the Chiefs? You can't say that, the Chiefs are so much better at this, that. It's, the Dalton Kincaid play last year, the 4th and 1 play, and the year before, you can point to one play here and there. And, even the Bills against the Ravens are saying, well, a Mark Andrews drop away. And, that's each year they brought in, different players and, of course, tried to strengthen different positions to make that one play. This year I really have emphasized how heavy they went on the defensive side of the ball to get that one play as a pass rush or get that one stop, because, when I look at them, that's really generally their defense has let them down for the most part. So, and they've taken a lot of swings at a lot of high draft picks with their pass rush with the A.J. Osborns and A.J. Epinepsas and Greg Rousseau's and Boogie Basham's that just have not panned out to be that impact player. So once again, will this new crop of defensive players that they drafted be the difference? But it's just one play. Who's going to make that one play to make the difference?
Mark, I want to shift over to L.A., and it's kind of a developing story, I guess, with Matthew Stafford, who was supposed to practice today. It was much, highly reported all last week that he planned on suiting up for the first time in camp on Monday. Monday rolled around, and he was sitting in street clothes watching practice as it unfolded. How concerning is this getting for Stafford and his kind of status going forward with the Rams?
Well, it's got to be of grave concern. Been around quarterbacks and older players, not just quarterbacks, but older players. And once he's 37, the guy has been up there. And, once you get old, it's you guys are, I don't know how old you are, but the older you get, the harder it is to recover. Now, imagine that, a player, it's the same thing. And for a situation like that where it's a disc in your back, backs and necks are just, a knee, an ankle, all those things you can kind of figure out quickly and do the right things. But a back is just so So you just never know there, and your trainers never know. You can do all the right things, and boom, one minute it could just flare up on you. So, yeah, I think this is serious now with a 37-year-old player with a back that has had this serious concern. Of course, they're going to do everything possible to make sure he's right for opening day, or at least close to opening day as possible. But, yeah, this could linger.
Mark, I was watching that Rams preseason game yesterday, and at this point in the year, just anything for that football fix when preseason football comes around. And I think a lot of people watch preseason football through the fantasy football lens. They want to see their receiver make that slow-motion catch in the open field that either would or wouldn't happen in a real game. But regardless of that, for you and your background, what do you care about in a preseason NFL football game? How do you watch that? What do you actually care about? What do you value? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I had to learn my very first year scouting, or our first preseason game, and we got the doors blown off of us, and I was like going into a tank, and coaches, the veteran coach, like, no, this is nothing. We did game plan, we didn't do anything. We had 10% of our plays. So I learned that pretty quickly that you can't look at the wins and losses and the production and who's going, what offense you're going to run. It's really about the young players making the team. Your veterans don't even play anymore, so you don't even have to worry about them. It's about what young players are going to step up and emerge to make the team and match with what you've seen in practice with them. So you're really looking for that confirmation or players to step out of the shadow. Victor Cruz was famous with us with the Giants, who Monday Night Football had 180 yards, whatever he had that night, to establish themselves. And the X's and O's and all that, of course, it gets people are starving for football, so of course it's going to get overanalyzed right now because that's all there is. But you really can't read into too much of that because 90% of your good players aren't playing. It's about those young guys making the team.
Mark, give us your thoughts on what KC's season should look like. I mean, obviously they lost the Super Bowl, but had won the previous two, so still plenty of gas left in the tank.
You say KC, yeah. I mean, they'll be right in the mix again. Yeah, they'll be in the mix, and although their division has gotten a lot stronger, the Broncos made the playoffs last year. I think they've only gotten better on the defensive side of the ball with signing the 49ers duo and drafting Jahdae Barron, and the Chargers, I think, will be really good making the playoffs last year, and I think they'll be even better getting Omarion Hampton back there in the backfield. Another year of Harbaugh. The Raiders will be better, but not a serious contender. So, but I'm still picking the Chiefs to win their division, and still picking them to be once again one of those three teams of the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens. I'd be hard pressed to pick against saying one of those will be the representative.
Mark, every year it seems like there's just some teams out there that you're really intrigued to see. Okay, well, what does that look like? Whether it's from a positive or a negative perspective, maybe there was a lot of overturn in the offseason. Is there a team that sticks out to you where you can't wait to see once, they're ready to go come week one, what that squad looks like?
Yeah, the Patriots. And I'm on tonight. I'll talk about them. But, everything they've really done in the offseason has kind of been positive steps to saying, okay, we're a legitimate franchise again, post Tom Brady. And, that started with Mike Vrabel. It's not guesswork of the type of coach you're hiring. You're hiring a coach who at Tennessee showed he could, not take the greatest roster and win playoff games and win the division. And then in free agency, they crushed it they had a ton of money and they spent it on top free agents, not the top free agents, namely Milton Williams. And then, okay, in the draft, they want, and you got a high draft pick, get the best offensive lineman in the draft, Will Campbell. You come back in the second round, you get a dynamic playmaker there, and Travion Henderson, who showed what he could do first time he touched the ball, returns a kick 100 yards for a touchdown. And then, so I think the Patriots, I'm really intrigued to see, okay, how much better are they really? Second year of Drake May, he should make tremendous strides, and a stable coach in there. So, how close they'll get to the Bills, I don't know, but I'll pick them to come second in that division and make a push for the playoffs.
Yeah, I like that.
Mark, I need to ask you about my Green Bay Packers this year, going into the year. I think a healthy Jordan Love is a big step. I think Matt LaFleur is a spectacular coach, and they have enough receivers to fill a few teams here going forward. But they're in that good group. I don't know if they're jumping into the very good, the great group in the National Football League, but do you think that they're capable of making that next step with Jordan Love, with LaFleur, and the young talent that they have this year?
Yeah, when you look at the landscape of the whole NFC, Philly's going to be Philly, and they're going to be in the mix again, but it's really wide open from there, and very good in the NFC could do it, and very good to great if Jordan Love plays up to what he can be great and all that young talent comes together. I think Green Bay will be, I'm looking at everyone else like, yeah, they might be the second best team. They might be the third best team in the whole NFC. And, the defense, Edgerrin Cooper, watch out for him. I've been talking about him for all off season. I mean, he is going to be a perennial all-pro player. He is dynamic, so he'll take that defense up to another level. And I think last year there were so many expectations for Green Bay just because the year before they crushed Dallas and they went toe-to-toe with San Fran, and it was somewhat of a disappointing year, but they still made the playoffs. They still had double-digit wins despite Jordan Love being hurt, and I think it got lost. Like, this was a pretty good season, the big picture of it. So I think if he stays healthy, health's always important, that Green Bay will be right in the mix. I really like their chances.
Mark, along those same lines, we can pick favorite teams because there's none in this market. So while I'm a one-share owner of the Green Bay Packers, I'm a lifelong Lions fan,
which is wild.
And I like the Lions, but I like gambling, but not in a big stakes playoff game. Where do the Lions go here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were having a season for the ages last year, as you know, until everything just started falling apart and, injuries every week until they just couldn't sustain it. And, losing the coordinators, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, it definitely will be an adjustment. It's not so easy to just say next guy up as a coordinator. That's a art and a skill to being a coordinator in this league, especially the level that those were playing at. Aaron Glenn, he was masterful last year with all those injuries, keeping that defense together until he couldn't anymore. And, I think, but once again, the division is so tough. The NFC North is just so tough. And, they won't have the record they did last year. If you look at their schedule, it's extremely hard. But playoff team, they'll be in the mix. But do they have enough? Is Jared Goff good enough to get them over the hump? Can they stay healthy on defense? Do they have enough pass rushers outside of Aiden Hutchinson to get it done? But they will be in the mix.
Two of the most crowded QB rooms in the NFL is the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants. And both of them started rookie quarterbacks this week in preseason. Both look pretty good, Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart. Between those two, who do you think has a more likely chance to start NFL games this year?
Oh, Jackson Dart by far. And I know the Giants have tried to say, this is a red shirt year, but they don't mean that. And, they're not doing anything with Russell Wilson. They're not going anywhere with Russell Wilson. And, they're going to I've talked about schedules earlier. You look at the Giants schedule, you'll be hard-pressed to count two certain wins on that schedule, maybe even one where you're saying, yep, they're going to win this game. I mean, it is brutal. So I can't see much of a long leash with Russell Wilson, and I think they'll struggle. And there's no point in having Jameis Winston on the roster. If you traded up and drafted a first-round quarterback, there's no need to keep another veteran free agent in front of that player to keep that young guy on the bench, and especially in light of the Bo Nixes last year and Jaden Daniels and C.J. Stroud the year before, where, you put those guys out there, Michael Penix towards the end of the season, you have to see what they can do. You can see what they perform. And even if they struggle, like a Bryce Young a couple years ago, 2 years ago, okay, let's see what we need to do. Let's see what we need to adjust to get better to help the player and see what his strengths and weaknesses are on the field to help him. So I would think Bo Nix is going to be on the field at least by mid-season. And, Shedeur, despite the other night, I was in the Browns camp last week, and he was fourth on the depth chart. And through injury, he's got a chance to play. But, take everything in totality with the game and what they see in practice. I think the coaches will just trust Joe Flacco and give him a longer leash, and then Kenny Pickett as well before they turn to Shedeur.
Well, how much should we read into those depth charts? Because they put out another one today, and he again came in as the fourth quarterback. Like, is that meaningful at all?
Of course. Yeah, they're not going to put out the fake depth chart, and, they're going to stack on the way they see him and not the way that the fans think it should be. And, they see these players every day in practice, and it's harder than a preseason game because in a preseason game, you're showing two coverages and you're not blitz. You're not doing much on the defensive side of the ball. But when you're in practice, you're trying to replicate a game situation. And he's going against a Myles Garrett in practice. He's not seeing that in other ways. So, you really have to – the coaches have a better idea day in and day out as opposed to a half of a preseason game.
Mark, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Mark Ross, NFL Network analyst, spent a year consultant for the NFL Football Operations Department, 11 years with the Giants, 2 Super Bowls, 5 seasons vice president of player evaluation, and 6 seasons as director of college scouting. He's done it all.
You might know a thing or two about the sport of football with a resume like that.
Not really excited about the Lions season. The coordinator lost. Tough.
Yeah, I'm kind of with him.
And a Lions fan.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Because I bought it years ago while working on this station. We had the guy who was selling them. And I said, I want to share because my Lions at that time sucked.
I would have bought I would have been in the same boat. I mean, I'm a Colts fan by trade. I would have bought a Lion. Although being a Lions fan, I feel like I couldn't do that. If I were a Lions fan.
But being a Lions fan back then was the bastion of objectivity because your team sucked. They were no good.
Yeah.
There was no hope of them being good.
Do you got hope this year?
No, the coordinator loss is tough.
I agree with you. I think the team that's going to take the biggest step back. We'll see them as a playoff team, but I don't think that they'll be. I don't think they're going to win the division. I still like the Vikings. I think the Packers have a good opportunity to do some damage. The Bears, I'm not sure what. That's the team. When I asked Mark, is there a team you're excited to see what they're all about? For me, this year it's the Bears.
I think they're like a tantalizing 8 and 9-ish kind of team that teases you and looks like it has the pieces, but there's still a lot of moving pieces. And I am,
but like
with
bringing
my
over
bias,
Ben Johnson,
Caleb Williams, man.
Speaking of, you bring over Ben Johnson, see what they could do with Caleb Williams.
Yeah, that's why you get into the NFC title game with the Niners and you gamble. You go, dude, you may not be back here.
Yeah, it's another team I expect to take a step back. The Niners doesn't sound like they'll have either through the first 6 weeks of the season. So, yeah.
That's it. Yes, Guy. Best Bets is next. OverDrive brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score and continuing live on YouTube, TSN 1050 and TSN 2.
Back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Overdrive, final segment for a Monday. Jim Taddy, Keegan Matheson, and Al's brother Mike DiStefano with you. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Doogie, what do you have?
All right, fellas, we're going with the Minnesota Twins against the New York Yankees tonight. We're rolling with the Yanks on the money line. I know it's been rough for them, but I do believe they bounce back against the Twins team who let everybody go, and they're not winning anything right now. So Yankees on the money line. Aaron Judge to hit a home run. We haven't seen it since he's returned from his injury in his 6 games. I believe he gets it at home tonight. And over 8.5 alternate total runs in this matchup. I'm expecting an offensive outburst in this game. That parlay totals plus 406 on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the 9th when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly, 19 plus, and physically located in Ontario. Al's brother, what do you think of it?
Well, I was just checking to see if they were Alan Rodin was in the lineup. He's not. He's not in the lineup for the Twins, unfortunately. But
unfortunately not.
I do, I mean, you look at that, the Twins they're going to lose a lot of ball games going down. It is interesting, though. I am curious as to what the injury, if that will hinder Judge at the plate. And if that happens.
It should, right?
And he can't hit. I mean, you would think your elbow is kind of important to hitting home runs, 400 feet jacks. If he can't get healthy, and if this is a lingering issue, I think the Yankees are in trouble this year.
Which is hardly ever said, but
yeah.
Between that and the bullpen,
These are
they can't.
Strange days, baby.
That the bullpen, they can't. They don't know what they're doing on the base paths. Defensively, they're booting it around. I don't know.
It's an odd look. Garrett Cole, by the way, threw off the flat ground as he recovers from Tommy John surgery.
One step. The energy's just not right in New York right now.
No.
Just not right.
And the Jays delivered that message, didn't they?
It was the turning point.
Strange days, Taddy.
Take that, Michael K.
Yeah.
Take that.
Yeah, that's right. It was him. We'll depart on this note. Thanks very much, fellas. We'll do this again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Enjoy your night.